We'll be right back in 2 minutes. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Haley Spittler here with you at 12:15. The Marquette University Law School unveiling a new poll. But really quickly, before we get out to that, I have a little bit of breaking news for you from the State Fair, and that is that they are having to cancel the Beach Boys concert scheduled for August 16th. In a statement, the Beach Boys basically said they've had a lot of time, a lot of fun touring the country, but they're in need of a little break. So unfortunately, that does include the date of the Wisconsin State Fair. They will not have time to replace the main stage act, so if you bought your Beach Boys tickets, just know that a refund is on your way. We'll get you some more details on that breaking news in just a little bit, but for now, let's go ahead out to Marquette University here to learn a little bit more about the new poll, all about the gubernatorial primary. And again, this was kind of all taken before the shakeup last week of Sarah Rodriguez dropping out, as well as David Crowley re-entering the race and being endorsed by Governor Evers. So curious to see what kind of the experts and the analysts have to say about how that impacts even these polls findings.
State issues, the issues that are important to all of us that live here in the state of Wisconsin. And then finally, we're going to talk about national issues, the national issues that affect us as well. So, Charles, let's get started. Could you get us started with the methodology of the poll?
Sure. So the short answer is nothing new here. It's the same standard methodology that we always use. The survey was in the field July 8th through the 16th. We had 838 registered voters. That has a margin of error of plus or minus 4.5 percentage points. We also use likely voters when we look at the fall campaigns. That's a little under 700 respondents with a margin of error of about 4.9 points. I see I managed to leave that off the slide. My apologies. For the Republican primary, we have 399 registered voters with a margin of error of 6.5. And for the Democratic primary, 430 primary voters with a margin of error of 6.1. So before we go on, let's look at those dates, because you've all heard something happened in the last couple of weeks. So on July 8th was the day we started interviews. That also was the morning that David Crowley dropped out of the race. So though we had him in the poll, we immediately took him out because he wasn't a candidate anymore. As a result, I will have absolutely nothing to say about David Crowley today, at least not from the poll. And then on Sunday last week was when Sarah Rodriguez's financial issues came up and continued through. Our last day of polling was Thursday of last week, but that's slightly misleading. Thursday, we only got 2 late interviews. So all of the interviews were completed basically by Wednesday, those 2 on Thursday. But most of the interviews had been finished in the previous week or over the weekend. So we're also not going to have much to say about the late game for her campaign. If you look at just the relatively small number of people that answered the survey after the news of the financial issues broke, there's simply not enough people to be informative at all. It's too tiny a sample size to tell us much. So on those 2 things that are only the 2 biggest things to have happened, we got nothing for you. And of course, her dropping out on Friday and Crowley getting back in on Saturday is all after the field period as well. So just so you understand, I will say that I'm going to show you results with Rodriguez in, because it's really important to see what the status of the race was before her issues came up, before these changes, and gives you a benchmark to look at her, but more importantly, look at the other candidates in relation to her. So don't be surprised when I keep talking about her as we go through, but it's for that perspective. Even I know she's no longer a candidate, okay?
Let's go over the partisan makeup.
Yes, party makeup. Pretty standard here, too. 36% Republican, 32 Dem, 33 Independent. When you count leaners in there, it's the same 4-point Republican advantage, 46-42, with 13 Independent. And that happens to be right at where we've averaged over all of 2025 and 2026. So neither more nor less Republican than what we've been seeing.
All right, Charles, let's get into the meat. Let's talk about the primaries.
Okay. So I just told you the big point about who's included in this and when we were in the field and obviously how that matters. Before I show you the numbers, I want to stress one really important thing, and you'll see it pretty quickly on these slides. And that is that while I expect everyone in this room has been following the races pretty carefully and knows a lot about all the candidates, that's simply not the case in the public at large. Remember, way back in March at our last poll, we had 65% undecided in the Democratic primary at that point. And we still have quite a few folks undecided now. And then the events have happened that probably upset the race even more. And so, you know, there's a lot undecided. There's this change in candidates. You should absolutely look at these numbers as where we stood last week, and there's plenty of room for change between now. If nothing else, the events of the last week should convince everybody that campaigns matter, and events happen during a campaign that people didn't expect, and that can change the nature of the race. So that's my little sermon to begin with about how you should look at this. So let's look at the, and I want to tell you one more thing before I put up the slide. For everyone's choice in the poll for primary vote, we also asked, and who would be your second choice? So I'm going to show you the results with Rodriguez, and then without Rodriguez takes all of her voters and their second choices and allocates those to the people they said was their second choice. Now again, that doesn't include David Crowley, and so we don't know what that's going to do. But it does give you a sense of where her supporters were thinking of going. And you can see from the comparison of with Rodriguez and without Rodriguez how much her absence from the race makes a difference. I'm going to quit repeating it, but absent the new entrants in the race. Okay? So there you go. Here's the numbers. That number at the top, the dark blue is with Rodriguez, the light blue is without her. And so you see 45% undecided. So that's down from 65% in March, but it's still an awful lot of undecided Democrats. We're looking at Democratic primary voters here, okay? People who say they're voting in the Democratic primary. That includes a few Republicans more independents, but of course it's mostly Democrats. Francesca Hahn leads with 26% with Rodriguez, 27% without her. In second place is Mandela Barnes at 15 with Rodriguez, 18 without. Rodriguez was at 11% in this poll. And obviously, without her, she doesn't have a number there. Joel Brennan at 2, that goes up to 5 with Rodriguez out. And with Kelda Roy's 1 with Rodriguez, 2 without her. I think the first takeaway is there's not much change when you take her out. People shift a point or two or maybe a little bit more. Barnes gets a 3-point bump, and so does Brennan, for example. Doesn't do very much to Hong's support, which is leading the field. I need to say a word about Hong's support because this is now the 4th poll in a row that she's been in first place. When we first asked back in October, she was in first place with, I believe, 6%. Then in February, she was in first place with 11%. In March, it was 14%. So, and now at 26%. So she has been the leading candidate in all of these, but with those enormous percentages of undecided, not a huge share. On the other hand, consistency counts for something, and we see that consistency in her performance over this entire time. We've also had Barnes in second place, where he remains now. And Rodriguez at 11%, I think, is maybe worth remembering or realizing that there was some buzz about her campaign. People were beginning to talk about her. But she was really only at 11% before the money problems blew up. So if there was an expectation that her dropping out would dramatically change the race, that has to assume that she was getting a really big share of the vote. And as you can see from our data, at least, she wasn't. She was in third place at 11. So that's the big takeaway from this.
Can we dive into the second choice of the Democratic primary?
So it's interesting to know who second choices are. Let's just show you. So 35% said they didn't have a second choice yet. So still a lot of undecided there. Rodriguez was the top second choice at 25%, and there is the basis for how her campaign might have picked up steam if folks moved away from first choices and gave her another look. But Barnes is still in second place as the second choice, followed by Hong, Brennan, and Royce. It is notable that Hong is leading in first choices, but is, with Rodriguez is in third place as the second choice candidate. Okay? And Brennan, 6% as a second choice, and Roy's 4%.
Now, the Democratic primary voters that you polled, are they set in who they're voting for?
Well, they're not anymore. So we asked, and 64% said they were sure that they were going to vote for the person they told us they preferred. They'd made up their minds. 36% not sure. Obviously, without one candidate and with a new candidate, this is surely an overstatement of how many people are really stuck with their candidate, sticking with their candidate. But it is where the race stood at the time. Still, more than a third saying they could change their mind is not surprising.
How important is winning in November to these primary voters?
Pretty important. 67% said extremely important. Usually we'd go very, somewhat, not very, not at all, but we used extremely here to try to get a sense of real commitment. 67% said it's extremely important in choosing a candidate that they be able to win in November. Again, this is only Democratic primary voters. There's almost no difference across the candidates in that 67%. It doesn't matter who you're supporting. it's the same 67% plus or minus a couple of points who say winning is extremely important. So that idea of winning as a big motivator crosses all of the groups, all of the candidates within the Democratic Party primary. It's not higher for one candidate or lower for another. It's really just stable across all of them.
Let's switch real quick to the Republican primary.
Tom Tiffany at 67% is leading that primary. But 30% of Republican primary voters say they haven't made up their mind there. And I actually think that's rather important, because when I'm telling you 45% of Democrats haven't made up their mind, or your mind either, you might think that, oh, that's just the Democrats and it's a big field and everything. But this 30% in a Republican primary, where Tiffany's certainly the dominant candidate, is an example of how the public still has not really focused on in the race. I know there are only 3 weeks to go, but I've been saying this all year. Primaries are slow developing things here in the state, and we've seen it in all of the previous primaries we've done as well, that an awful lot of attention comes only in the last few weeks of the campaign. And so I think this high 30% among Republicans is a further demonstration that it's not just the Democrats, though they're a little more undecided than the Republicans are, that it really is the attention to the race, which is coming, but it's coming here very, very late. One last thing, take those high undecideds and the late developing race and the changes in the Democratic primary, and you get a perfect picture for how things can change. Maybe a lot, maybe not at all, who knows, but there's certainly plenty of opportunity for a lot of change to take place over these last 3 weeks.
Charles, can you break down the Democratic vote by ideology?
Yeah, I can. And when you see this slide, don't run screaming from the room, because it's actually easy to read as long as I walk you through it. Okay? So I want to show you the Democratic Party primary choice of all the candidates, broken down by the ideological orientation of Democrats, for moderates plus the small number of conservatives in the Democratic primary, then liberals, and then very liberals. These are all people's self-description of how they describe themselves ideologically. So there are a whole lot of dots here, but look at the green dot. That's Francesca Hong. And at the top, you see the green dot is at 8% with moderate voters. If you look to its right, 12% were going with Rodriguez, 15% with Barnes, and a whopping 60% of moderates saying they were undecided. Then go to the next row, and the dot for Hong has moved to the right. 26% support among liberal Democrats. The undecided has come down to 39. The Barnes and Rodriguez votes don't change very much. They're in second and third place there. But then the very bottom one, the very liberal Democrats, this is, of course, Hong's home turf. And you can see it, 58% support among Democrats who call themselves very liberal. And the undecided drops down to 24. And so you see her coalition is really based on going from the center to the left, and the further to the left, the stronger her support. We won't talk much about Rodriguez here, but Barnes is pretty stable in the moderate and the liberal group, but he falls off a bit in the very liberal group. And so that's the balance of support there.
What happens when you take Rodriguez out?
When we take Rodriguez out, not much changes. Look again at Hong. She's now at 10, 27, and 59. That's hardly any change, a point or so. If you look at Barnes at 21 and 20, that's up slightly from with Rodriguez in. And in the very liberal group, he's up to 11. Again, not a whole lot of movement there. So again, what I said at the very beginning, with or without Rodriguez moves things a couple of points here and there, but generally doesn't make a whole lot of difference.
There's a lot of talk about Democratic Socialists of America, Democratic Socialists. Have you broken it down in the poll?
Yes, we've been asking about this in the national survey. This is the first time we've been able to ask about it in Wisconsin. And so there's a little bit of a question about what do we mean by calling someone or someone calling themselves a Democratic Socialist. So I built an experiment into the survey where for a random half of the sample, we ask if they have a favorable or an unfavorable view of Democratic Socialists of America. That's the organization. A lot of people call themselves DSA or I'm part of DSA. They may or may not literally mean they've joined the group, but that's the organization's name and it's been common parlance for a while. But other people, candidates, simply describe themselves as a Democratic Socialist. And they don't say anything about the organization, Democratic Socialists of America. So I wanted to know whether the term that is used to connect these people to democratic socialism, whatever that means, differs between these two. So the random half, one half got the label Democratic Socialists of America, the other half got Democratic Socialist. How much difference is there between those two? And the answer is a little bit, though maybe not a huge amount. So on the top row, 25% say they have a favorable opinion of Democratic Socialists of America. This is all registered voters here. But when we ask just about Democratic Socialists, the favorable is exactly the same, 25%. But look over to the right, actually look at the gray number in between. 32% said they didn't know enough about the organization, Democratic Socialists of America, to have an opinion of them. But that drops to 19% who don't have an opinion about the label Democratic Socialist. But what happens is the unfavorable group goes up with the second label compared to the first, from 43% unfavorable to the organization Democratic Socialists of America to 55% unfavorable to the phrase Democratic Socialists. So there's more willingness to give an opinion about a Democratic Socialist. There's more uncertainty about what this organization, DSA, is. In order to compare people across the whole sample, I just combined the answers to those two questions. It obviously doesn't affect the favorable rate, which was 25% for both of those groups, but it kind of compromises between the don't know and the unfavorable for the others. Okay? So that's how we're measuring that.
How does it break down by ideology?
Yeah, and within the Democratic Party. So that was everybody. Here's just within Democratic registered voters, okay? Not necessarily primary voters, but within the party. And you can see that the favorability among moderates, among Democrats, is 25%, but that bumps up to, among moderates and conservatives, bumps up to 60% among liberals and 82% among people who call themselves very liberal. This matches what we saw in national data and what I posted to our website.
Again, we are listening in live right now to the new poll being released by Marquette University Law School, all about kind of people's thoughts as we now are 3 weeks away from the gubernatorial primary here in Wisconsin. They keep kind of having to have that asterisk that you're not going to see David Crowley included in this poll. They actually started collecting data for it the day that he announced he was dropping out of the race, so they took him out of all of the questions. Of course, he has now restarted his campaign. He is running once again, actually with Governor Evers now endorsing him. And of course, you are seeing some data for Sarah Rodriguez, because at the time of collection and kind of polling all of these people and these voters here in Wisconsin, she was still running. So they keep kind of mentioning how that's affected the poll here. We're going to take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and we'll get you right back out to Marquette Law School. Stay with us.
Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey guys, Haley Spittler with you here at 12:40 on your Wednesday afternoon. Of course, it's a gorgeous day in Milwaukee. We'll get a full check of your forecast coming up in just a little bit. But for now, I actually want to get us back out to Marquette University Law School, of course, releasing their latest poll here all about the gubernatorial race. So we're going to go ahead and listen back in here for a few more minutes and see what we can learn from their findings.
27% with the 50 to 99 and 23% with the 100 and over. Mandela Barnes, though, the purple dot, does quite well with those under 50,000, but then his support drops off in the next two economic categories. So you see a little bit of movement for her. You see a little bit more movement for him. Rodriguez doesn't move much with income, and the other two candidates don't move much at all.
So how do the Democratic candidates stack up against the Republicans?
Yeah. So this is the other question that's been hanging out there. And so we, again, asked all of the matchups for all of the candidates then in the race. And here they all are in one slide, sorted from biggest Democratic advantage to biggest Republican advantage from top to bottom. So in the head-to-head matchups, Mandela Barnes leads by 4 points among registered voters at the top. Rodriguez was up by just 1 point when she was in. Then Hong is trailing Tiffany by 3. Brennan also trails by 3, and Roy's trails by 4. These are all close races. I've seen buzz on the places you go to get buzz. They want to treat a 1 point, a 2 point, a 3 point difference as huge. And I swear I'm telling you it's not. The uncertainty about how these races shape up is just gigantic. And so it may be that Tom Tiffany runs away with this, no matter who the opponent is. It may be that the Democrat runs away, no matter who the Democrat is. But what this does show you is, as we like to do in Wisconsin, a fairly tight race, a little bit of variation from candidate to candidate, but not a huge amount. Now, this was registered voters. Let's look at likely voters and see how much that changes. A little bit, but not a whole lot. Barnes goes up 1 point in his lead to a 5-point lead. Rodriguez would have gone up to a 4-point lead. Hong now is tied with Tiffany, 44 apiece. And Brennan trails by 1, and Roy's trails by 2. Same message as in the previous slide. Close race, these things could easily shift. There's not a gigantic advantage. Having said all of that, it's worth noting that Mandela Barnes has been is the leader in both of these, the strongest against Tiffany in this poll, regardless of whether it's registered or likely voters.
How about likely votes in November by party identification?
Yeah. So we've been seeing all year that Democrats have a little bit of a turnout advantage. That is, more Democrats say they're absolutely certain they're going to vote in November than Republicans do. We've seen that in our national polls. We've seen it here in the state polls as well. And it's why you see a little bit of a bigger Democratic vote in the likely voter here. So here's that difference. Among Republicans, the second row there, 79% say they're certain they'll vote in November. But among Democrats, at the bottom, it's 84%. So there's a 5-point Democratic turnout advantage there. And independents, as usual, are the least likely to say they're sure they'll vote at 69%. Likely voters are not a fixed thing. This is your decision to vote, and that can change over the course of the campaign. So it's always worth it to look at these, but it's also important to realize this may change over the course of the campaign. As the general election campaign heats up soon, I predict August 12th it will heat up a lot. You can take that one to the bank, I think. That may mobilize Republicans who are a little bit less enthused. On the other hand, Democrats could remain in the advantage here. but there's a little bit of a persistent Democratic advantage on turnout.
I'm going to have you break down these next slides.
Yes. That's always worrisome. If I'm told I have to break them down, they must be bad. They're not really. But I did want to talk to you about this. This is the section to talk about candidate and party ideology, because there's been a lot of talk about that, of course, whether Francesca Hong is too liberal for the state or not, or too much to the left, whether Tom Tiffany is too far to the right, because certainly his voting record is very conservative as a member of Congress. So we asked everybody in the survey, where would you place yourself on a 5-point scale from very conservative to very liberal? And where would you place each of the candidates? And so here's what that looks like. At the top is your self-placement. And then the candidates below are sorted in the order of the percent, calling them very liberal. Okay? So that's the order here. I want to point out that for the voters, registered voters, 13% say they're very conservative and 12% say they're very liberal. Pretty even balance on those ends of the scale. There are more conservatives than liberals by 26 to 17, but there's a pretty big 33% moderates in the middle at the top. Just glance down below that and no candidate comes anywhere close to 30% saying they're moderate. That means for an awful lot of voters, about a third of the electorate, they're looking at an entire slate of candidates, whether Republican or Democrat, and not seeing them as towards the middle where they are. Now, probably that's not a huge surprise to you, but it is telling about how people feel about the parties and the candidates. On Tiffany, 29% say they think he is very conservative and another 37% conservative. Only 6% would label him moderate. But then we get to the Democrats, and it's a very small, single digits calling any of the Democrats moderate. They tend to lean towards liberal rather than very liberal until you get to Barnes, when it's 29 liberal, 24 very liberal, and Hong 17 liberal, 34 very liberal. So the ordering of these candidates is a way of thinking about what that field looks like. Another important thing over here on the right, though, is the percent that say they haven't heard enough about these candidates to know where they are on a liberal-conservative scale. And for Hong, that's 45% that are unaware of how they should place her on this. For Barnes, 36%. I won't go through all the rest, though Tiffany, only 26% feel like they don't know him well enough.
Again, we are listening in live right now as Marquette University Law School unveiling their latest poll. Obviously, they talk and interview and question a lot of Wisconsin voters, and this one's all about the gubernatorial primary 3 weeks away, trying to get a better idea of who people really plan to vote for. Again, they did note this is a little bit of a different situation because it includes Sarah Rodriguez, who has since dropped out, and it does not include David Crowley, who had dropped out but has since actually reinstated his campaign and is once again in the running. But really, the findings here show that a lot of people are still undecided. That's the -- 1 category among Democratic voters. They say they haven't figured out who they would like to vote for yet. As far as Republicans, 67% of the people polled said they plan on voting for Tom Tiffany, but even 30% say they haven't decided. So certainly going to be an interesting couple of weeks here as different candidates really continue to vie for your vote here in Wisconsin. Just the primary. So November also going to be an interesting campaign as well to see who walks away as the new governor of Wisconsin. We will get back to this if it's still happening after a quick break. But I do want to let you know that our breaking news crew is currently on the scene right now of a large police presence. And we can see this is near Appleton and Congress. You can certainly see some amount of police tape has been put up here. We do see several different squads squad cars as well. Our breaking news crew right now looking and working to get any information as to what exactly police are responding to and what's been happening here, again, Appleton and Congress this afternoon. So as soon as they have any information for us, we will have them join us right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. For now, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
Live Desk.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Haley Spittler here with you at 12:52 on your Wednesday afternoon. As a quick reminder, our breaking news crew currently on the scene of Appleton and Congress here in Milwaukee, where there is a police presence. Looks like potentially an officer there, maybe gathering some information from someone. You can see other officers standing nearby, and we've seen several different squad cars in this area, some with their lights on, some without. But you can see also that crime scene tape is up and around this building, which includes, it looks like, a smoke shop as well. So our breaking news crew right now working to get some new information as to what exactly police are responding to and what's happening right now resulting in this police presence. So as soon as they have any information or answers for us, they're going to join us on the Wisconsin Live Desk. But just know this is a situation that we are monitoring and actively working to get you answers on right now. In the meantime, the Marquette University Law School poll, still kind of those answers, those findings being unveiled right now in a live kind of press conference. So I want to get us back out here and we can continue listening on to what they found out when they recently asked Wisconsin voters what they plan on doing with the primary just 3 weeks out.
A little bit of a tilt there. This is the one for registered voters. The likely voter, the margin is the same, 4%. So there's not much of a further boost when you go to likely voters for this.
And the most shocking of the slides.
Shocking.
Let's talk about individual issues.
No one saw this coming. Everybody worries about inflation and the cost of living. No, everybody knew that was coming. 42% say that's their most important issue. It's been the number one issue for the last 3 or 4 years, at least since 2022, when inflation spiked. But it hadn't gone down. It remains high. If anything, it's up a little bit this time. Second most important, 13%, is immigration and border security. Then health insurance, property taxes, jobs in the economy, affordability of housing. But it's interesting that data centers is at only 5%, since there's been so much activity around data centers lately. It doesn't pop up into the top tier. Then this time we also asked, what's the second most important problem for you? And son of a gun, if it isn't inflation and the cost of living again. Immigration drops from 13 to 9, so fewer people are picking immigration as their second most compared to the first most. But what goes up a little bit, health insurance, property taxes, jobs in the economy, and affordability of housing, are all economic issues. So I think this, and the ones down towards the bottom, schools, abortion, crime in your community, and data centers, don't go up very much as a second choice. So it just drives home the fact that the economic issues are really at the top of people's minds. And it's not just one issue, it's this sort of cluster of things that are connected to the cost of living and affordability.
Something we can all agree on. Let's talk about data centers.
So even though only 5% say it's the most important problem, people have actually become a little more opposed to data centers since the March poll. It's now 76% who say the costs outweigh the benefits. That was 70% in March. So up a little bit. All partisan groups, there's a sizable majority opposed to data centers. Republicans have grown in opposition in each of the polls from October to February to March to this one. Independents and Democrats have moved a little up and a little down, not a consistent trend. Democratic opposition is boosted up just a little bit in this poll compared to where it was in March. But you are seeing a widespread concern about the costs of the data centers, and it crosses party lines, while at the same time people don't say it's their most important issue. So that leaves us with an interesting question about, given how many people have turned out at planning commission meetings and city council meetings to oppose data centers, and this lopsided 76% opposed to them, doesn't look like it's really the biggest motivator for voting this time. We'll see how it shapes up.
We can agree on something.
Oh, yeah, it's nice that we can agree on being against something.
Let's do Act 10.
Act 10's a long time in the past now, but we asked about it because it's come up in the campaigns a little bit. In this question, 53% say they would like to see collective bargaining restored as it was before Act 10 was passed in 2011. 46% say it should keep it the way it is. In the past, when we've asked about it, a similarly small majority said we should keep it rather than go back to the previous collective bargaining. However, that question was asked in a slightly different way, so it isn't quite an apples-to-apples comparison. But if I were going to characterize it at all, I would just say, has been a slim majority for keeping it. Now it's a slim majority for overturning it. You'll notice we didn't include it in the list of most important problems, so I don't have any idea whether it's really a motivator for people at this point or not.
How about school funding?
Yeah, this is a new question. You've listened to me for a long time talk about our question about which is more important, holding down property taxes or increasing funding for schools. But this time I wanted to ask a question that goes directly to the adequacy of state funding, state aid to public schools without the sort of property tax versus funding trade-off. And there's an argument that state aid can lower property taxes and increase funding for schools. So this question avoids that ambiguity. And so the question is, do you think schools are getting enough state aid? That's the green dot. More than's needed, that's the orange dot. And too little aid from the state, the red dot. And up top you see 47% say too little, 33% say getting enough, and 18% say schools are getting too much state funding. Republicans are more likely to say they're getting enough, but also more likely to say too much, the orange dot, with 23% saying getting too little. But independents, too little is 46%. Democrats, too little is 77%. So not an unexpected division there, but an interesting one to start following.
How about the budget surplus bill?
Yes, you'll remember in May when this happened, we did a poll on that. And people asked, so I said I would ask.
Again, listening in live right now to Marquette University Law School's latest poll on the gubernatorial race. Of course, Wisconsin's seen a little bit of a shakeup in the last week when it comes to the Democrats that are in the running. Sarah Rodriguez, the current lieutenant governor, dropping out of the race last week. And then Milwaukee County Executive Director David Crowley actually re-entered the race after previously suspending his campaign. That also came with the endorsement of Governor Evers. So again, some of these results you won't see David Crowley because he wasn't mentioned in the poll, and you might see Sarah Rodriguez when she's no longer in the race. But it does give better insight to how voters are feeling just a few weeks out from the primary. We're going to take another quick break here on the live desk. We'll be back with more right after this. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Haley Spittler here with you at 1:03. Before we head back out to Marquette University, want to remind you that our breaking news crew is currently on scene of a pretty large police presence here near Appleton and Congress. This is giving you a different angle of what's going on, but you can certainly see that police tape is up. And again, you can see there's a number of squad cars surrounding this area, some with lights on, some without. Certainly a lot of officers there out of their vehicles in some sort of a gaggle, a conversation happening here in the parking lot of this kind of strip mall. So again, our breaking news crew right now working hard to figure out what exactly has happened this afternoon that's caused the police to respond with this many officers and vehicles. And as soon as we have any information for you, we're going to bring it to you right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. In the meantime, we will get you back out to Marquette University Law School, where they are continuing to kind of release their findings from their most recent poll, all about the gubernatorial race here in Wisconsin and where voters are kind of standing on who they are going to cast their vote for come the primary just 3 weeks away.
It's again the same point that if you're going down in approval each time and up in disapproval each time, your net approval is going down quite a bit. The real point for this, though, is to show you that these last two polls in March and in July are all-time lows, including the first term, what had been the all-time low back over there at the left. So in March, he just passed that all-time low. This time, he's moved further down below that all-time low. Things are not going real well in the national polling or here in the state. And of course, that plays into the fall elections too, because presidential approval matters for November elections.
How do Wisconsinites feel about if we've achieved our goals in Iran?
Well, you might ask why it's gone down. This is one of those reasons. The war had just begun in that March poll when he dipped down. Now, of course, it's gone on for quite a while and it's gone down more. But here's the sort of stunning result. Only 14% think we've achieved our goals in Iran. 85% say we've not. And only 25% of Republicans think we've achieved those goals. 75% say we've not. So this is a really damaging set of public opinion about the war and implicitly the president's role in the war. This is the worst outlook for the war because we're going to ask a couple more questions. We ask whether the war has been worth the cost. Here, 71% say not worth the cost, 29% say it has been worth the cost. But whereas Republicans were pretty negative on achieving the goals, a majority of Republicans think the war has been worth the cost that we've paid. But big majorities of independents and, not surprisingly, of Democrats say it's not been worth the cost. So more of a partisan split on that broader judgment of worth it, but not much of a partisan split on the goals of the war. Then we asked one last one, which is, has Iran gained more control of the Strait of Hormuz? Do they have less control now? Or hasn't there been any change in how much control they have over the strait? 49% say that they have more control now, 28% less control, and 22% say it hasn't changed very much. But here again, Republicans are more positive about the war. 45% think that Iran has less control of the strait now than before the war began. But 56% of independents and 68% of Democrats say they have more control now. So that's the wrap-up for the war today.
And a few people feel that the Strait of Hormuz is better than a royal flush.
Yes, yes. You know, you draw an inside Strait of Hormuz. That's good at the poker table, right? Okay. We have a last word.
I'll let you.
Some people know this is a tradition at these things. Polls don't vote. People vote. So the election is in your hands. And go out there and make your voice heard. People put too much stock in polls, even, dare I say, my polls. And especially when you see such a high percentage undecided and such a high percentage that are not familiar with the candidates, this message goes even further. But I just want to stress that point. Again, this is always the last slide. But wait, there's more. Yes, we will do another poll, and it will be out a week from today at 11 o'clock, not 12:15. But we will see what the new field in the Democratic primary looks like. This will be a poll only of the Democratic primary. We're not going to repeat on the general election. So it'll be a sample of Democratic primary voters only. So stay tuned. We will hopefully see all of you back here a week from today at 11.
All right. Are there any questions? Okay.
Yeah.
No, there.
Hello, thank you for this. I just moved back to Wisconsin after 22 years, so this is...
Welcome home.
Thank you, thank you. I was just wondering, in previous polls, have you asked about socialist Democrats, social parties, et cetera? Has that number changed at all?
Yeah, we have not asked about it in Wisconsin. We've been asking about it in the national polling, and the results are pretty similar to what we're seeing here in terms of how strongly ideology structures, feelings towards democratic socialists. Age, surprisingly, doesn't really drive the democratic socialist support in the national data and not so much here in the Wisconsin data. I think the biggest takeaway, though, is how many people don't have an opinion about it. You know, you might think that socialism is a term that's been around for 100 and some odd years, but the new use of it and its new prominence in the Democratic primaries around the country is new, and you're still seeing an awful lot of people that just aren't real familiar with the term, or at least don't seem to be in the data, whether Wisconsin or elsewhere.
I may have missed this, but did you...
Again, we've been listening in here to the Marquette University Law School's latest poll on Wisconsin's gubernatorial race. They have since moved on to some question and answer segment here for anyone who's been in attendance. But if you missed it, they did just announce they will be doing another poll before the primary, this one only focusing on the Democrat candidates who are in the running. And that's because, again, some of this data is outdated already in the poll that was just unveiled within the last hour, because they did a lot of the collection and the interviews and talking to voters back when Sarah Rodriguez, the lieutenant governor, was still in the race. She suspended and ended her campaign last week. And of course, when they asked the voters these questions at the time, David Crowley had already ended his campaign, so he wasn't an option for them to choose. And since then, he has restarted his campaign, running once again with the endorsement of Governor Evers. So a week from today at 11 a.m., they're going to have another poll out. And of course, we'll let you know the findings of that. But based off of just this poll, what they found is that when it comes to the Democrat race here, most people are undecided. They said between 45 to 48%, and it is a variant here because some of the data includes Sarah Rodriguez. Some of it does not, just because, again, they had asked and gotten these answers collected when she was in the running. After that, Hong is leading as the top choice candidate here with 26 to 27% of the pollers saying they would vote for her as their first choice. Mandela Barnes was in second with 15 to 18% of the votes there. When asked, okay, who's your second choice for a Democrat in the running here? No decision was winning once again, 35%. And then interesting, Sarah Rodriguez was actually the number 2 slot there with 25%, followed by Mandela Barnes at 20%. As far as Republican candidates, who again will not be included in the poll that's coming out next week just because no information has changed here, both Tom Tiffany and Andy Mansky are both still in the running, so the data is still accurate here. They said Tom Tiffany was winning with 67% of the pollers saying they would vote for him come the primary. Haven't decided was 30% of those polled, and then Andy Mansky had 2% of the votes there from at least the people asked that were Republicans who they would be choosing on the primary. Again, we'll get new information just a week from today when they reveal their latest poll that will have David Crowley back in the race and won't have Sarah Rodriguez running, and we'll get you that information right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. For now, we will take a quick break, then we're going to get you a check of your forecast. Stay with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Haley Spittler here with you at 1:15 on your Wednesday afternoon. And for any of you who are currently outside, I am so jealous. It is stunning out there today. I walked to my car briefly around 10:30 and I just was immediately put in a good mood because it's not super hot. It's just 71 degrees right now. There's a lovely breeze, so definitely get outside if you have the opportunity. Definitely one of those days to be so grateful that we live right here in Milwaukee. But talking about weather, and really 16 years ago today, I know it was a much different story, Stephanie. Unfortunately, some devastating and historic flooding hit today back in 2010, 16 years ago.
This is one that you hear about when you move to Milwaukee. I still remember, 6+ years ago as we were house hunting for the first time, even still being able to see some of the water lines on some houses in neighborhoods by rivers. And, again, it's just one that you hear about, especially, comparing to what we saw back in August, even in April. 2010 is what people compare things to, among a few other events. But record flooding, July of 2010 in Milwaukee. So the highest one-day rainfall total was set on this date of 5.61 inches. There were over 4,400 homes within the Milwaukee area that reported water in basements of that day. And it was eerily similar to what we saw in August, where we saw multiple rounds of heavy rainfall. There was a morning batch that day, but it was more so the afternoon and evening that was the most problematic. There were severe thunderstorms. There were tornadoes actually across parts of the Madison area as well as southeast Wisconsin. But it really was some of that just torrential rain that hit the same spots over and over again that caused the most issues. Nicolay High School was one of the spots that dealt with water in the basement, but also at the main level. So again, it was a really just historic event, sadly, in our area, and 16 years ago today. As you mentioned earlier, though, Haley, thankfully, it's the complete opposite here in Milwaukee. Absolutely gorgeous today. Low humidity, very comfy temperatures. Hearing from a lot of people on social media, they're opening up the windows as they should. I know we've been just waiting for a day to actually be able to enjoy low humidity and no wildfire smoke. I've been loving showing this today. The entire state, the air quality is good. And that goes for out towards the west too. Parts of Iowa where there is a little bit more wildfire smoke, there's more moderate air quality. That's still okay though. But here locally, we are getting a break from the wildfire smoke. All the rain is out towards the west. I know we need it here desperately. We are sadly under drought conditions here, or starting to see more drought conditions move in. The newest drought monitor comes out on Thursday, so we're going to get it tomorrow, and I do not have high hopes for it, sadly. A high pressure system is going to be with us for the remainder of the week, so dry, sunny, comfortable temperatures, but also still very summer-like in the next couple of days. Take a look at our temperature change, though. Really impressive, because even yesterday, as well as Monday, we were in the mid-80s. So where we're at right now in these low 70s, that's a good 10 degrees cooler than just 24 hours ago. Even bigger change when it comes to dew points. I really think that's the best part about today's forecast and the remainder of the week, is how comfortable we are going to feel. Dew points right now are a good 10 to almost 20 degrees lower than this time yesterday. We still experienced dew points well into the 60s throughout yesterday afternoon. Now from here, when it comes to temperatures, today will stay just so beautiful. High temperature right around 74. We've got the lake breeze in place, so we're not expecting to climb much more than that. And this evening will fall right back to 60s, but likely upper 50s again as we wake up tomorrow morning. So refreshing, to say the very least. And when it comes to dew points, or I should say temperatures past this, then we'll talk dew points. We are going to climb a little bit Thursday and Friday, but back to where we should be this time of year. These low 80s, plus combined with low humidity, those are going to be perfect summer days. Good pool days, good park days. Just lather on the sunscreen, because the UV index is going to stay very high with the fact that the wildfire smoke is out of here and we do not have much in the way of cloud cover on the way. Notice how the heat builds back in, though, right in time for the weekend and early next week. Sunday, we actually have the chance to reach 90. So gorgeous through Friday. Then we're right back to summer heat and humidity as we enter Saturday. Dew points stay really low today and tomorrow, and even Friday. I mean, mid-50s is still very pleasant, but just like those air temperatures climbing, dew points will also follow suit starting on Saturday. We have a slight chance for a few rain showers and thunderstorms Saturday night and then Sunday into Monday, but they do not look to be huge rain chances, unfortunately, because as we just talked about, we do really need the rain desperately, but at least we have a slight chance, the second half of the weekend into Monday. Otherwise, the rest of the week, with how gorgeous it's going to be, try to get outside and just know that it is limited because that heat is back by Saturday. Haley.
I was going to say, I can't wait to get outside today. It's absolutely gorgeous. To your point, though, about us being kind of in a drought here, I know it's been a very dry July. We will be being joined later on in Wisconsin Live Desk with the Milwaukee Forestry Services manager talking about the need to actually water some of those baby trees. If you planted one recently, it's crazy enough, but they need the water since they're not getting it from any sort of rain. So we have that coming up. But you know who I'm really jealous of today, Stephanie?
Tell me.
The people who are at the afternoon Brewers game.
Oh, perfect day.
Perfect game. If they got to tailgate beforehand, I'm sure it was gorgeous. And of course, the roof is open because it is absolutely stunning outside. So we'll keep our eye on this score. 0-0 right now, bottom of the first. But thanks, Steph.
Yeah, thank you.
A good check of the forecast there. Of course, unfortunately, the Brewers did lose to the Mets last night. So this is an important game in the series. Who's going to walk away with this series W? Either going to be your Milwaukee Brewers or the New York Mets. We'll keep an eye on the score. As I mentioned, this one just got underway, currently in the bottom of the first. But in the meantime, I actually want to get out to our breaking news crew. Obviously, we have been kind of looking at their live look at Appleton and Congress throughout the last half an hour or so. But Bria Jones joining us right now. Bria, what have you guys been able to learn about this pretty large police presence where you're at?
Hi, Haley. Right now, obviously, there are a lot of onlookers that are here that have gathered at the scene again right now. This is at Appleton and Congress. I'm going to step out of the way so we can show you where police have been focusing most of their attention. As you can see, there's a good mix of people from the community as well as police officers here on the scene. We do have calls and emails into the Milwaukee Police Department as we're really just waiting and working to learn exactly what happened here. I'm trying to count at least the number of officers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's more than a dozen officers I can say that are here. There's a good mixture of detectives as well as officers in uniform. And so that lets us know that we are indeed on the scene of a crime. We're unsure exactly what crime has occurred here, but there is caution tape up. And I can show you right now, Jake is panning over closer to this smoke shop. We're going to see a detective. Looks like he's maybe entering or going near the business, but this is where they have been focusing most of their attention. This is a smoke shop. Again, we're at the intersection of Congress and Appleton, and this portion of Congress right here near Appleton, it is blocked off. So if this is along your route this afternoon, or if you're in the area, this portion of Congress is closed off. So you cannot turn left on Appleton, or excuse me, rather, you can't turn left on Congress from Appleton because police are now conducting this investigation. Again, we do have calls and emails into the Milwaukee Police Department, but the scene here, this is at a shopping center. The shopping center is also closed off. That is important to note. There are a few other businesses here. There's a Chinese restaurant, a cell phone store, as well as a mini market. But at this point, it appears that police are focusing most of their attention on this smoke shop. That's where we've seen several detectives going in and out. And we're also starting to see a lot of people in the community come here together as they're really working to learn what's going on. Someone arriving to the scene just now appearing to be very emotional, being consoled by members of the community. But again, we know that there is some sort of investigation. Usually when you see emotions like this, it lets you know that there will be a victim in the midst of all of this. But right now we have just a maze of crime scene tape surrounding the shopping center. Again, we are working to learn exactly what's going on. Right now, officers still appear to be in the middle of their investigation. I see at least one officer with gloves. And usually, obviously, that's what they're wearing when they're handling the different evidence and findings. Someone from the Milwaukee forensics team just now arriving on the scene in a van. I believe that This also may be that black truck, that black van. I'm not sure if that's with the medical examiner's office or not, but of course we will be reaching out to determine that. But there is someone from the MPD forensics team that just arrived here as well. And of course, we will continue to let you know what comes of this investigation. As I've said, we have reached out to the Milwaukee Police Department, so we are working to learn exactly what happened here. But again, this is the scene at Appleton and Congress at this point in time. This is the car I was saying. So I do want to show, if you're coming this route again, if you are trying to turn left on Congress from Appleton, you will be met with this cruiser. So that's something obviously that you cannot do at this time. It's unclear exactly how much longer police will be here, but again, a good mixture of detectives as well as officers in plain uniform that are out here conducting this investigation. As to what they are exactly investigating, we're unsure of at this time, but of course, again, Haley, we are working to learn that information.
Bria, we appreciate you so much hopping on the live desk right now as you guys do work to still figure out what exactly has happened this afternoon. But even just that information about the road closure there at Congress, so helpful. So again, thanks so much for all you're doing right now. We know you're working to get more answers, and we know you'll join us once you have any new information for us right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. And Bria Jones there reporting on that large police presence near Appleton and Congress. We're going to take a quick break here on the live desk. We'll be back with more right after this. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Haley Spittler here with you at 1:28 on your Wednesday afternoon. But where were you 5 years ago today? Were you happening to maybe be outside in downtown Milwaukee celebrating the Milwaukee Bucks, really that 2021 NBA championship victory? Yeah, 5 years ago today was the celebration parade with 500,000 of you guys going out to say hi to Bingo, to Giannis, to all the other Bucks players and organizers that were instrumental in bringing that trophy back to Milwaukee. Tim Van Warren's going to join us near the end of Wisconsin Live Desk to talk more about the anniversary. Of course, a lot of fond memories surrounding this one. In the meantime, Maddie Stelk standing by. She is ready to take over. She's going to be chatting with our very own Brett Lemoyne in just a couple of minutes. So in the meantime, we are going to head out to Marietta, Georgia. That is where in just a little bit President Trump is expected to speak, talking more about Trump accounts. So we will leave this up for now, listening to some of the other speakers at the lectern, and then Brett Lemoyne coming up in just a couple minutes. Stay with us.
And you know who's leading the way? It's Main Street America. And here's something that the fake news won't tell you. In 2026, small business formation is at record all-time highs all across this country. We have a record number of Americans working in the workforce, and we have more than 500,000 new jobs created already this year. Yeah. Now, here's another thing the fake news won't tell you. We have launched a massive, historic crackdown on billions of dollars of fraud to... That's right. We are going to stop the corruption and the abuse of your hard-earned tax dollars. Now, you know President Trump is fighting every day to bring back the factories and the jobs that prior administrations sent overseas. They said, I'm sorry, your job's going to be in China, your job's going to be in Mexico. Well, he's fighting for us because that's made in America, that's common sense, and that is America first. And you know, it is common sense. America First rewards you, the hardworking American citizens, and it lets you keep more of what you earn. And that's all thanks to President Trump's working family tax cuts. They delivered over $3,000 in annual tax savings to Georgia families. They doubled the child tax credit, doubled, and ended taxes on tips, overtime, and Social Security. Now, all of that might seem like common sense, and it is, but it's also a fact that every single congressional Democrat voted no on letting you take home more of what you earn. And yes, that includes both of Georgia's senators. They voted no. They voted, yeah, it's hard to believe, but they voted to raise your taxes, to cut your child tax credit. They voted no for millions of our young people to get an early start in building their American dream. Thankfully, President Trump had our backs once again when he fought. Yeah. Let's hear it for President Trump. You know, he fought for America's most precious treasure, our children. Now, today, Trump accounts represent a historic and life-changing investment in and for America's youth. They offer a foundational stake for young people in their future, and they give them a stake in America right now. As owners in our free enterprise system, they are the next generation of builders, visionaries, and leaders. And I expect to see many of them on this stage in about 25 to 35 years. Okay, you got it, guys? All right, I want you up here. I want you up here. And there's another win. Now, this is a new benefit for America's small businesses to offer their employees. Trump accounts are one more tool to attract and retain employees, talented employees, each and every year. A small business can contribute up to $2,500 annually for each employee to their family's Trump account on a tax-free basis. Now, you know, there's a great saying, and it says, the best time to plant a tree is yesterday. These accounts help plant that tree right now to get a head start on growth for this generation. And thanks to President Trump's dedication to our young people, the American dream is alive and well and growing stronger in every day, every single day across Georgia. Now, we are harnessing the power of free enterprise proudly and unapologetically to secure our nation's future by investing in you.
All right, this is live in Marietta, Georgia right now, ahead of remarks that we are expecting from President Trump in just about under an hour now. I want to take you out now to some local news that we're following because our Brett Lemoyne standing by. He's joining us now here on the live desk. And Brett, you're talking about a referendum for Lake Country and something that could actually help a staffing problem that they've been having.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Maddie. So on August 11th, voters in the town of Delafield will ultimately decide whether or not to fund through a tax levy a staffing plan and agreement that they had entered into previously with Lake Country Fire and Rescue. They're headquartered here in the city of Delafield, which is where I'm standing. But again, this just pertains to voters in the town of Delafield. Lake Country Fire Rescue services 7 different communities out here in Lake Country. The largest of them in terms of population and in terms of geography is the town of Delafield.
All right, Brett, and just to be clear, so we are expecting a vote on this referendum. For people who are watching, just clarify when exactly we are expecting it to happen.
So this would be on the ballot on August 11th. When voters go to the polls, when they go to the polls to cast their vote, if they're voting in the gubernatorial election, the primary, or for any other municipal election that's being held in their community on the 11th, voters in the town of Delafield will ultimately have to decide. Now, this is a deal that is about $450,000 annually through the year 2030. So they're asking voters to pick up that cost to be able to fund the partnership that they have with Lake Country Fire Rescue. There is a huge backstory here, Maddie, that dates back many, many years in terms of how we got to this moment. It has been somewhat controversial. However, in May, the town of Delafield said, and I'm simplifying this, hey, we're in. We want to continue with Lake Country Fire Rescue. We want them to continue providing services to our residents. So we will continue with this agreement that we have with them, along with the 6 other communities that make up the communities served by Lake Country Fire Rescue. Again, that happened in May. Now it's basically a question of how do they pay for it. They have to go to referendum to increase the tax levy to pay for the $450,000 a year that would cost. However, the breakdown per home is obviously the most significant part here. For the average town of Delafield homeowner, this breaks down to about $143 per year.
What would you say, and I know you're talking a little bit about the cost, is the biggest roadblock to potentially having this passed and for people to vote on it coming during the primary in August?
So that's a great question, Maddie. We just spoke with the chief here, Matthew Fennig, at Lake Country Fire Rescue, and I asked him more or less that same question. In his words, this comes down to a decision that town of Delafield voters will have to make for themselves here in August. One is that they increase the tax levy and they fund this extra $450,000 in the town of Delafield. If they don't do that, they're still committed to paying that because of what the agreement that they entered into in May. So that would just mean that they would have to find that almost $500,000 through some other means. The most logical thing would be cuts to other departments to be able to come up with that funding.
For people who might be watching where this will be on their ballot come that election, a lot of times I feel like people don't even know what the referendum is that they're voting on when these do come up. Why is it important, especially to the fire department, that people know what this is and they do pass it?
Sure. Well, let me answer that in 2 ways. First, being that the town of Delafield is trying to make this easy and trying to be as transparent as they can with the Lake Country Fire Rescue and with its residents. So they have 2 meetings that are coming up next week, one on Tuesday and one on Thursday, where you can either go to the Town of Delafield Town Hall or to the Town of Delafield Fire Station that Lake Country Fire Rescue operates. They're both essentially in the same building off of, I believe it's Maple Avenue in the town of Delafield. So they're opening up and they're letting people come in, ask questions. The chief is going to have staff there that'll be able to give people a tour and make them comfortable with whatever decision that they ultimately decide. Now, to your point, again, there are two options here essentially that voters have. One is increasing the tax levy, the other being finding cuts through other means. That would certainly be a discussion that presumably they would have to have pretty soon after the referendum is either passed or shot down on August 11th. What's interesting here, Maddie, is that there have been a lot of issues that Lake Country Fire Rescue has had over the recent past, we'll say, when it comes to staffing in general. They had positions that were open that were part-time positions, and frankly, they weren't getting a lot of applicants for those jobs. The Chief Fenig told me that this is an issue that has kind of plagued a lot of fire departments, not only in Waukesha County, but really across the country recently. So they had to resort to brownouts in some cases because they didn't have enough staff to be able to fill all of the positions at any given time in all of the communities that they serve. With this staffing plan, they will now have full-time firefighter paramedic positions. I believe it increases by a total of a dozen, that they'll be able to staff more or less 24/7 in the communities that they serve.
Oh yeah, so a lot at stake there for the fire department, and of course only just a few weeks away from the election, so hopefully those efforts next week will help people realize and even understand what the referendum is for. Brett, thanks so much for joining us here on the live desk. All right, and yeah, that primary, it's coming up pretty fast here. I mean, we just got a few weeks left. It is on August 11th. Of course, if you are in the town of Delafield, in that area, that referendum will be on your ballot. It's important to know everything that's going to be on there and not just some of the big things. Like, I know we're closely following the race for Wisconsin's governor, especially on the Democratic side, about who's going to be that candidate there. So important to know, be educated on everything that's on your ballot. And as Brett was saying, they're very important as well for the Lake Country Fire Department. Going to take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. I just logged in, getting situated here, ready to bring you more news in just a few minutes. Stay with us.
is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Thanks for being with us on your Wednesday afternoon. Let's take you out right now to some breaking news that we're following. This is at Appleton in Congress right here. We're joined by our Bria Jones, and we will check in with her just momentarily. We're just making sure that she is ready and has audio so she can be able to hear us. But we did just get an update. We do now know an update from the medical examiner. Last time we checked, they said they haven't been called to the scene. But Bria, I think you're with us now and can hear us. Sounds like you have an update for us from them.
Yeah, Maddie, I did just call the medical examiner's office within the last 3 minutes, and they did confirm that they have now been called here to the scene. Again, we are at Appleton and Congress. Take a look behind me. Officers have been focusing most of their attention on this It's Exotic smoke shop. This is where we've seen detectives coming in and out. There are, again, detectives here on the scene from the Milwaukee Police Department, as well as officers that are in their uniforms. And so we're seeing a mixture of MPD personnel here on the scene. Some of the officers are wearing their gloves as they have been collecting evidence. Some of them were wearing different vests. There is someone here from the victim witness unit. So again, we are seeing multiple Milwaukee police officers here on the scene. It's unclear exactly at this time, though, what they are investigating. We have heard a lot of different things from the community as really people are kind of pouring here into the scene. A lot of onlookers just curious as to what has happened. There is crime scene tape up, and at this point the shopping center is blocked off. There's also MPD forensics unit here on the scene as well. Obviously, knowing from the medical examiner's office, they are only called to scenes if there is some sort of fatality, if there is a deceased victim. And so at this point, with the medical examiner's office being called to the scene, we know that there is at least one victim here that is deceased. And so again, mostly activity here with Milwaukee police focusing on this It's Exotic smoke shop. And so we're working to learn exactly what has transpired here. The Milwaukee Police Department, they have not responded to our calls and emails just yet, as they are obviously here on the scene working to gather information. So no confirmed information yet from the Milwaukee Police Department, but obviously there is a crime scene here and they are investigating. And so we have just kind of been watching as they are conducting their investigations, because as they are piecing together exactly what has transpired, what has occurred here, as they're retracing the steps, we're also closely watching by me and my photojournalist, looking at the scene, just really taking it all in. But at this point, what we can tell you is clearly what we can see is that there's crime scene tape here at the intersection of Congress and Appleton. This shopping center has been blocked off. There are other businesses here. There's a convenience store, a cell phone store, and even a Chinese restaurant, as well as it appears to be kind of another clothing store. And so most of the attention, again, what we've seen is officers going in and out of this It's Exotic smoke shop. And a lot of people in the community tell me that just from the people I've had a chance to talk with, this is a very popular smoke shop. A lot of them very familiar with this business. And so at this point in time, I did try to call the business. They did not answer the phone. Obviously, there's a lot going on at this moment in time, so not really sure what has transpired inside of the business, but I did call the business. I did not get an answer. We have also called the Milwaukee Police Department to try to figure out exactly what's going on. But what is confirmed at this point is that the medical examiner's office is telling us that they have been called out here to the scene, which lets us know that there is at least one fatality here at Appleton and Congress. And I do want to point out, if you are trying to come to this area here at Appleton and Congress, you will have to find a detour if you're trying to turn along this road, because police have blocked off there's just kind of this corner here as they're investigating here at the shopping center. You will not be able to make a left on to Appleton. You won't be able to make a left onto Congress from Appleton. And so again, folks, please avoid this area if you can, as officers are working to conduct their investigation. Again, we have those calls and emails into police. I'm seeing the victim witness unit here on the scene. we're just continuing really to talk to people in this community to try to see what they know. A lot of neighbors were kind of telling me that they didn't exactly hear what transpired, but they did hear all of the officers that were responding to the scene, and then that's what led them to come over here, because there are quite a few people that are actually out here.
Oh, yeah.
Because people are concerned, they're curious, and they're really worried, and they're wanting to know exactly what's happening. And that's what we're doing here as the Breaking News crew. We're really working to learn, to determine, to nail down exactly what has happened here. Again, most of the investigation, Maddie, focusing on this smoke shop here. Officers going in and out of this van. I'm not really sure what's happening inside of the van, but the activity here is at the shopping center, and again, there is a crime scene. We're working to learn. We're waiting still to hear from Milwaukee police, but at this point, what we do have confirmed is that the medical examiner's office, they have now since been called to the scene here at Appleton and Congress, and that we know that means that there is at least one fatality. As to what led to that, what led to the ME's office being called, that's still undetermined. It's still unclear as we're waiting to hear back from the Milwaukee Police Department. I'll send it back to you.
Yeah, so we know that the death investigation is underway there, Bria. You had mentioned the victim witness unit multiple times. For our viewers who might not know, what exactly is that?
Oh, the victims witness unit, at this point, it appears that they're kind of talking to the people that are here that are maybe have witnessed what has transpired. And so obviously when you have a crime scene, you want to talk to the eyewitnesses, and that's exactly what the detectives do. They come in and they talk to the people who may have witnessed whatever has transpired, so they can get a detailed account of what has happened and maybe offer some services or support.
Yeah, definitely a large investigation going underway. There's several things blocked off. I know you had mentioned beyond that shopping center there's some road detours people have to take. I don't know if you're able to pan to actually show those for people who might be watching familiar with the area.
Yeah, it's just this one area right here, so you will not be able to make a left onto Congress from Appleton. So if this is along your detour, if you're over on this area, you won't be able to turn left here by the shopping center because officers are conducting their investigations. So they have this kind of cruiser blocking things off. There's already a construction zone, so there are some other detours already in place. But as far as where the investigation stands, they're not allowing anybody to turn left right here by the shopping center as they try to kind of obviously control and maintain the scene.
Yeah, absolutely, Bria. We appreciate what you're doing out there. We know as the Breaking News crew, you are going to work to get us more information. And of course, once we get that, we will bring it to you right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Bria, thanks for joining us. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, but again, we do have it confirmed now that there is a death investigation underway at that scene at Appleton and Congress right now. Bria said they are focusing in on that vape shop in that shopping center, but again, also some detours to be aware of as well in that area. We're going to take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll be right back right after this. Stay with us. approaching the bottom of the 2 o'clock hour here on the Wisconsin, or the 1 o'clock hour, excuse me, on the Wisconsin Live Desk. I want to take you to a breaking news scene happening right now at Appleton and Congress. We do know that the medical examiner was called to the scene. As we can see, somebody being put in handcuffs, I believe, looks like right there. Milwaukee police are on the scene right now. But yes, we do know that the ME was called to the scene, which means at least one person is dead, as our Bria Jones and our breaking news crew are there investigating right now. Not much that we know beyond that, but again, this is a live look at Appleton and Congress where that is happening. We're going to take you out now outside from one of our tower cameras. As you can see here, this is Estabrook Park. From there, yeah, it looks like we'll check in with Bria Jones in just a few minutes here, but first I want to give you a live look outside right now because we're pretty chilly, honestly, and I can't believe I'm saying that because it's 70 degrees, but honestly, from the heat we've been seeing, I feel like this is quite the cool down from what we've been used to. I want to bring in our meteorologist, Stephanie Barrichello. Steph, I'm feeling a little like fall out there.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. That's exactly how I felt this morning, Maddie. In fact, I sent my girls, they were going to a fun farm today. I sent them with their fleeces this morning because they were wearing tank tops still, and it felt a little cool. Absolutely refreshing, though. Great day to open up the windows and a great day to just spend a ton of time outside because it's finally comfortable. Now, we've been mostly clear all day long, just pointing out that we've got a few more puffy cumulus clouds about to move in. That's about it for today. We will continue to see really gorgeous conditions. No signs of wildfire smoke. Finally, a break from that. Air quality is good across the entire state of Wisconsin. There is a little bit of thin smoke out towards the west, but it will not be an issue for those of us in Wisconsin. So nearly perfect conditions going to continue. High pressure system is out towards the west, and that's going to keep us sunny today. Again, looking at satellite, you can see a few more of these puffy cumulus clouds moving in, but that's about it. All of the rain out west from the Dakotas into parts of Nebraska and northern Missouri, that's all moving southeast. So that stays away from us. I know we do desperately need the rain, but we won't see any of that. We're going to stay dry through at least Saturday. It looks like maybe Saturday night we see a couple of showers moving in, and then on and off throughout the second half of the weekend. Here's the latest drought monitor. I know we've talked about it a lot over the last couple of days. You know, we have seen a little bit of that those drought conditions returning to southeast Wisconsin and parts of northern Wisconsin as well. We'll get the newest drought monitor tomorrow. So I'm a little concerned with what tomorrow's is going to look like, especially for southern Wisconsin, as northern Wisconsin experienced a little bit more rain over the last week. Now back to current conditions. It is beautiful out there. Temperatures significantly cooler than this time yesterday, and even more impressive, the drop in dew points. Most of us went from mid 60 degree dew points yesterday to 40 degree dew points today. So get outside, enjoy, again, nearly perfect weather. We're looking at about 74 for a high temperature in the coming hours. That is quite a bit below average for this time of year. However, the heat does return over the weekend. So those of you who are enjoying this little break from the summer heat and humidity, it's here through Friday, but then we're right back to summer into the weekend, Maddie.
Okay, yeah, so not in the cool temps for long, it sounds like. So gotta enjoy the breeze while we have it. Steph, thanks so much for joining us here on the live desk. I want to go back out now to some breaking news that we're following at 11th and Congress. Bria Jones joining us now. Bria, we're seeing a lot of things happening behind you. Looks like some people maybe being put in handcuffs.
Yeah, that's right, Maddie. It appears at this point that Milwaukee police have at least detained one person here on the scene. They put him back in this cruiser that has the lights on. The gentleman was here on the scene. He's probably been here for quite some time just talking to other people. If you can kind of pan down, Jake, you can see he was actually on a bike when officers had him get off the bike. They handcuffed him and then placed him in the back of this cruiser here. It's really, at this point, unclear exactly why he was handcuffed and what the status of that is and how it relates to this particular investigation. There was also a second person over there that officers had handcuffed but they have since taken that person out of handcuffs, and they continue to talk to him for a few minutes. All of this happening really while a lot of people in the crowd were questioning exactly why these people were being detained. But again, at this point, there's at least one person that has been handcuffed and placed in the back of a cruiser here on the scene. So really a lot of different things unfolding all at one time. It's still unclear exactly what has transpired here, but the medical examiner's office has been called here to the scene. So that lets us know that there is at least one fatality here. Again, this is at Appleton in Congress. We are just continuing to follow the scene as, of course, things develop and unfold. But there was just a lot happening just moments ago, unfolding live for us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. It appears the officers may soon be leaving with that person. The status and why this person was detained is unclear, but there was one person who was an onlooker. As I was saying earlier, a lot of people in the community are out here because they are concerned, confused, they have questions. And so one of the onlookers has since been handcuffed. And at one point it was two people that were handcuffed, but at least one person was handcuffed and placed on the back of a cruiser. You could see his bike here on the ground outside of the cruiser. And so why that happened, we have no idea at this point. I know that's really not what you want to hear, but it just happened so quickly, and people were asking why was that happening. Of course, we're still waiting to hear exactly why that happened. We will be reaching out to the Milwaukee Police Department to see why people were detained or handcuffed here on the scene. But again, we have at least one fatality here at Appleton and Congress. And again, Milwaukee Police focusing really most of their attention. I can confidently say the investigation at this point is surrounding this It's an exotic smoke shop, and so that's where police again have been focusing most of their attention as the crowd here seems together and really wonder and congregating and really asking questions. We're waiting to get those questions answered from the Milwaukee Police Department.
Wow.
I'll send it back to you in the studio.
Yeah, Bria, wow. So you were saying that somebody who was a part of that crowd that was just looking at the scene ended up getting put in handcuffs?
Yes, that's right. Someone who was a part of the crowd, more so we can pan over, somebody who was in this area. And I have some cell phone video, so I can try to Slack it or send it some kind of way so that maybe we can pull it up at some point. But the person was being handcuffed, and I believe you were showing it live on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and being put in the cruiser. Okay, so that person was really standing over to the side. They were on their bicycle. Their bicycle is still here on the ground. And so that person was kind of watching on the other side of the crime scene tape, and they have now found themselves in the center of the crime scene, once on the outside as an onlooker, and now really just kind of sitting in this cruiser here. And it's unclear. It could have nothing to do with the investigation. We're unsure at this point. It could. It's really just someone. We can pan over here. You can see the officers are kind of swiftly going off somewhere. So not really sure what developments are happening here now. But there's one person that has been placed in a cruiser. It's unsure if it's even related to the crime here itself as to what has occurred, but more so really this onlooker being handcuffed and now placed in the back of this cruiser, and that just kind of upsetting some of the people in the crowd, just wondering exactly what's happening. So there are a lot of questions that we need answered from the Milwaukee Police Department right now.
Right, yeah, I can understand why that confusion's growing, especially after somebody who was in that crowd was then handcuffed. Bria, did you see it escalate at all? I know you've been in and out trying to get information, but did you see anything that maybe could have indicated why that person was put in handcuffs?
No, I honestly was standing by. I'm looking in this direction, and next thing I knew, one person was being handcuffed, and they just kind of walked towards that person. So it happened quietly, and then that's when it's like everyone's like, okay, what's going on? And then we saw someone being handcuffed, and then I looked on the other side of the car, and they're like, oh, they're getting another person. So then I walked to the other side of the car, and this person was also being handcuffed, and that person, they were being handcuffed while on the bike. And so obviously creating sort of a spectacle here. But now, since that has happened, people are kind of dispersing. So the crowd has probably it's died down. It's a quarter of the size that it was probably in the last 20 or 30 minutes ago, because once the handcuffs were kind of placed on that one person, people just kind of broke up, and they're kind of going their own way at this point.
Wow, interesting scene there at Appleton and Congress, where we do know a death investigation is underway. Bria, we'll check back in with you in just a little bit there, but we do know now that one person at least was put in handcuffs and taken in. Oh, actually, we're going back out to Bria now.
We have some new information.
All right, yeah. Go for it.
Yeah, okay, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, we just got some new information in from the Milwaukee Police Department. MPD confirms a fatal shooting at Appleton and Congress. Milwaukee police are investigating a fatal shooting that occurred July 22nd at 11:40 a.m. This is in the 7800 block of West Appleton Avenue. They say that a 44-year-old victim sustained fatal injuries. They are, of course, working to investigate what led up to the shooting, and they say they are continuing to look for unknown suspects. And so we have confirmed information now from the Milwaukee Police Department. I just read the email that they sent into our newsroom just within the last 2 minutes. And so again, Milwaukee police are confirming that they are on the scene of a fatal shooting here. They say that a 44-year-old victim has died after being shot here in the shopping center. And so that is what has led police to this investigation. I want to go back over here to the handcuffed person. The handcuffed person is in the cruiser, but the bike I was telling you about is now going with the Milwaukee Police Department. So I will be reaching out to figure out exactly why this person was handcuffed and why they are being taken away from the scene in handcuffs. But we do know at least one person has been shot and killed here at the shopping center that's at the intersection of Appleton and Congress. And so that kind of coincides really with what we have been hearing from the people in this community that have been telling us that someone was shot and killed here. And so now we have that information confirmed. They have suspicions as to who they believe the person is. So that's really kind of what led to a lot of people congregating, because they know who the victim is, which typically happens when we cover these crimes, because the streets, they know, they usually get the information first, and then it comes to the Milwaukee Police Department. That's why you see people like the victim witness unit here, because they have to talk to the people in these communities to be able to gather the information. And so the community was really corralling earlier because they got word of who may have been shot and killed. And now we have a confirmation, not yet an identity on the victim. So I'll withhold anything that people may be just speculating, but we do know that at least one person, a 44-year-old, has been shot and killed here at this shopping center here at the intersection of Appleton and Congress. And it appears, I don't know if the bike fit, so the bike is back. It's no longer in the trunk. I don't know what they're planning on doing with it, or where this goes now, or what that person even, what their relation is even to this investigation. And so I don't know where he's taking it. Or maybe taking it to another car. So whatever has transpired here, they just wanted to make sure that they have kind of cleared things out. So we know at least one person has been shot and killed. I see an officer there, Jake, if we can pan over, with a brown bag. Those are usually bags that contain evidence. So officers are still collecting evidence. We know that the detectives here, obviously in suits, we have the suits here, and we also have the personnel here as well in their uniforms. So this investigation is still underway. I'm looking inside of the smoke shop, and I'm seeing quite a few officers standing inside by the doorway. So this investigation is still underway.
Wow, and I mean, heartbreaking when anybody gets shot, as you know, Bria, and especially, I mean, seeing the victim witness unit talking to those people. You saw one woman getting emotional. Just can't even imagine what she could have seen there. But some great information. Good that we got that confirmed from Milwaukee police that a 44-year-old was shot. Bria, of course, we'll keep you on standby if we get any more information. But again, confirmed from Milwaukee police, a 44-year-old was shot and killed just before noon here at Appleton and Congress in that shopping center. Bria, we'll check in with you in just a bit. Thanks for joining us with that update. So, yes, we do have that confirmed into Milwaukee police. Bria was referencing that press release, which is what I have been reading right now. So again, we do know, we originally came on not knowing much, just that there was a police presence. Got it confirmed from the medical examiner that they were called to the scene, which means there was a death. And then the latest from Bria that we just got from Milwaukee police is that it's confirmed that there was a fatal shooting here, a victim, the 44-year-old, who was shot and killed and died of his injuries. We're going to keep you updated with that story, as well as take you to other news happening in and around southeast Wisconsin. We'll be right back after a short break. Stay with us.
Desk.
2:12 on your Wednesday afternoon. Thanks for being with us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. I want to take you out to some breaking news that we have been following. This is at Appleton and Congress, where we do have it confirmed from Milwaukee police that a 44-year-old was shot and killed here just before noon. Our Bria Jones on the scene. We did catch one person being handcuffed and from the looks of it, arrested and placed into that police cruiser. So once we get more information, we will bring it to you right here on Fox Local. But I want to switch gears for right now because there is something important to talk about in the medical industry, especially for those of you who may have loved ones who are suffering from Alzheimer's or it runs genetically in your family. There's been a bit of a medical breakthrough, and it happened just down I-94 in our backyard through research from UW Health. I want to bring in Dr. Jessica Caldwell joining us now. Jessica, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So kind of break down these numbers because this was just released at this year's Alzheimer Association, an international conference rather, and it used local research. Can you kind of break down the numbers of what exactly was discovered?
This discovery included almost 3,000 people from around the world, but especially including participants from our local Wisconsin Registry for Alzheimer's Prevention. And what the study showed was that in these people, even if they didn't have any memory problems, a simple blood test could not only identify Alzheimer's disease-related proteins in their brain, but also predict what their memory would be like in 5 years and 10 years.
So I feel like when we think of Alzheimer's research, I mean, it's such a complicated thing to understand what's going on in the brain. Can you talk a little bit how a blood test can be enough to recognize that even years in advance?
This is a critical part that we have for this study, is that the blood test really can do about as good a job as other types of testing for detecting Alzheimer's disease proteins in the brain. Typically, what an individual would have for a test would be a brain imaging scan. The brain imaging scan is only available in certain places, but it really does allow for a special tracer to bind to the proteins that build up in Alzheimer's right in the brain and show who has that protein. researchers over many years and in-depth study have now gotten this blood test to the point where they can detect a protein called p-tau217 in the blood that's highly reliably predicting who has Alzheimer's disease proteins in their brain, as well as that PET scan could have done the brain scan.
And I was looking at the study a little bit, and the numbers are striking. I mean, 78% risk of impairment within a decade for those with high levels of this specific protein that you're talking about. How is this going to change the course of diagnosis and other aspects of Alzheimer's disease in the medical community?
Well, I think we're a bit far from changing diagnosis, but what I think is really critical, and again, you mentioned those people with very high levels of the protein in their blood, this means twice as much as the average amount in the blood. Those folks have, within 5 years, a 38% risk of developing an Alzheimer's related diagnosis, and then in 10 years, a 78% chance. But this is in a research setting. So what we can do right away with this information is start testing in our clinical trials. Will this help us better identify the best candidates for new medications for Alzheimer's disease, or trials like exercise change trials? We are ultimately, the end goal is really to get this into the clinic and be able to tell someone who has a family history and might be concerned about Alzheimer's risk that they do or don't have this protein, and that their next few years could look a certain way. However, right now in the clinic, this is only used for people with memory problems, only trying to get a diagnosis specifically.
Sure, and I know you had talked about that this is just the beginning of something that could be really remarkable, and I know talking future, it can be a lot, but for people who might be watching down the line who are like, I don't know what's going to happen to me in 10 years or where I'm going to be, how could this help them in the long run, knowing this?
So when we do get to that point where we can do prediction in individuals in a clinical setting, what this could do is a couple of things. First, it could potentially suggest that you are eligible for treatments for Alzheimer's disease. These are growing in terms of their availability every day. The types are changing rapidly right now. The other thing that this could do down the line in the future when we get this into the clinic is give people some sense of what their next 5 to 10 years might look like. This can help people plan. It can help them communicate with their families. They can make their own decisions about what they want their next decade to look like, even if the news isn't good.
And Dr. Caldwell, if I will, I mean, your experience and your research has been nationally recognized. I mean, the amount of work you've done is just incredible. I was reading about it. I know we see these medical breakthrough headlines talking about Alzheimer's specifically. What does this mean to you to now have this information?
Really, this is a game changer. What we need to do right now is focus on better treatments for Alzheimer's disease, and also better treatments for people who don't have any memory symptoms, but they've got proteins in their brain. Because what ultimately we want to do is to be able to address things before memory issues become a problem. This type of prediction is really a major step on the research pathway to getting that done.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything that you want to add that you feel like people should know about this study that came out?
I just wanted to say that the people from the Wisconsin Registry for Alzheimer's Prevention, these participants were part of that original FDA approval of the blood tests that can detect proteins in the brain. And now they're really part of the next step, which is prediction. So I'm really grateful to our participants. It's been an amazing experience.
Hats off to our Wisconsinites from that study. Dr. Caldwell, thank you so much for joining us here on the Live Desk. Excited to see, hopefully, all that's to come with this new research. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on the Live Desk, but first I want to take you back out to that breaking news scene that we have right now, where we have learned that a 44-year-old has been shot and killed, and a death investigation is underway. We watched live on the Wisconsin Live Desk and it looks like somebody else may be taken away in handcuffs. I don't know if Bria is still dialed in and could maybe check in with us here Otherwise, we can maybe talk with her during the break. But a lot has developed here in the past hour or so at this scene near Appleton and Congress. We do know that this shopping center has been blocked off, as well as the road behind there. So people are having to work around this area as police continue to investigate. We're going to check in with Bria in just a little bit now. But first, we're going to take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
The Wisconsin Live Desk.
2:22 on your Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back to the Live Desk. Thanks for being with us. I want to take you out right now to Georgia. That's where we're expected to hear from President Trump. We've heard several members from his administration and other lawmakers and supporters here as we are expected to hear his remarks. This is there in Marietta. Again, we are expected to hear from the president, hopefully in just a little bit here. We will bring that to you live on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Let's give you a live look a little bit closer to home now outside. This is from our Estabrook Park camera. Let's kind of just circle through our cameras a little bit here and just take a look at things happening. There's a look at American Family Field in downtown Milwaukee, of course, or I guess rather on the outskirts a little bit. There we go. There's a shot of our downtown camera. Very clear skies right now. I feel like it's been a while since we've actually been able to see the shoreline and not have it blend into the sky because of that wildfire smoke. So something that we are taking a look at as well as we monitor other things here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. I'm curious about this shot happening right now in Georgia because we are expected to hear from the president. He was supposed to go on just about 20 minutes ago. Typically, when we are expecting these things, they tend to maybe run a little bit more behind than planned. So given that there is nobody here taking the stand right now, we did hear from several speakers prior to this. I would assume that the president may be coming out momentarily here. So something that we are going to keep our eye on here and bring it to you once it happens right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We're going to take a quick break here as we wait for the president to make his remarks and also check in with our reporter Bria Jones at that scene where we did learn that a man was shot and killed near that area. So we are going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back in 2 minutes. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Thanks for being with us here on your Wednesday afternoon. I want to take you back out to some breaking news at near Appleton and Congress. That's where Bria Jones joining us now. Bria, we've been checking in with you throughout the afternoon now. We just saw somebody else being put in handcuffs as this death investigation continues.
Yeah, Maddie, I do want to point out that my photojournalist Jake was saying that they had actually transferred to the person who was on the bicycle who was handcuffed. They had just transferred him to another unmarked unit. And so it may have looked like there were multiple people at that one time, but it appears at this point, just within the last maybe 5 to 10 minutes, what we saw was that one person was being transferred to another police cruiser. And so at this point, there's still just that one person that was handcuffed, and then there was the person who was being handcuffed that was then unhandcuffed. And so this all transpiring, unfolding on the scene of a fatal shooting here at Appleton and Congress. We know from what we can see and what we have been told, the Milwaukee Police Department confirming now that a 44-year-old died from gunshot wounds. If we can zoom in right now, we can see officers now focusing their attention. They have a flashlight on this door here of the Exotic Smoke Shop. They are taking pictures. They are dusting for fingerprints, and they're trying to figure out, right now they're gathering the clues to piece together this investigation as to who walked into this smoke shop and what exactly transpired inside. And so from what we can see out here, I have not seen a shooting scene. I don't see any evidence markers on the ground out here in the shopping center, which kind of goes along with what the community is saying, that the shooting happened inside of the smoke shop. And we know a 44-year-old was shot and killed here at the shopping center. Again, officers, from what we can see, everything points to the shooting happening inside of the smoke shop, where we have seen officers going in and out. I have had a chance to talk with some people in the community that have gathered who are, know the owner of the smoke shop and who are really just kind of worried and concerned and fearing the worst. And so a lot of family out here looking concerned. Emotions for some are high right now, as they're really just trying to wrap their mind around what has happened. And we know from what we have confirmed from the Milwaukee Police Department that a 44-year-old was shot and killed here at the shopping center at the intersection of Appleton and Congress. There was a lot of stuff that did transpire, but I do want to be clear that we do not know. There was someone who was handcuffed on the scene. It is unclear if this person is connected at all to this scene. And so that person was on the other side of the crime scene tape. They were looking on with the other onlookers, and we saw police then handcuff 2 people. One of those people was released, and they walked away a few minutes later. The other person was on a bicycle. The bicycle was confiscated and placed in the back of a cruiser, and that person was put in another MPD squad. And what we saw just in the last few minutes was, Jake, you were saying that person was that same person who was handcuffed was transferred to another unmarked unit. And so I don't know if that person has left the scene just yet. It's unclear even if it's just for questioning or if it's something related or unrelated. But we have reached out to the Milwaukee Police Department just to gather those details. But again, we are on the scene of a fatal shooting. Milwaukee police telling us at this point they are continuing to look for unknown suspects. So they say at this point they do not know who the shooter is. So that means that no charges have been filed. They say there are no arrests made in connection to this case. So we are waiting to get word if the person that was handcuffed, if that has any relation at all to this investigation right now.
Yeah, important clarification there, Bria, because of course we saw earlier somebody being handcuffed, but as you were saying, it was that same person. And we don't even know if they're a suspect or what the situation is. So still a lot of moving parts there at Appleton and Congress. We know you'll bring us the very latest as it happens. Thanks, Bria, for joining us. All right, Ted Perry's standing by right now, so he's going to get logged in and take you through the next hour, and then you'll have me for the last half hour until 4 o'clock. But until he gets logged in, I want to take you back out to Marietta, Georgia. That's where we're expected to hear from President Trump any moment now. So I'm going to leave this up, let Ted get logged in. Thanks so much for being with me here on the Live Desk. Again, I will be back at 3:30.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's a special place, and I am here to announce my candidacy. I'm only kidding. Nah, boy, I tell you what a group. We have thousands of people outside on a weekday. The weather's nice, but we're in Marietta. We're in Atlanta, right by it. And I just want to thank everybody. Those are places, you know, we had a tremendous victory here. And it was a big, beautiful victory. We won by a lot. And we have some great candidates running. They got to win by a lot. Otherwise, we're going communist. I don't think anybody wants that. We're not going to do that. But I'm thrilled to be back in the great state of Georgia with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots. That's what you are. And with your help in 2024, we earned more votes than any candidate in Georgia history. There's never been anything like it. And when I say that, I have to be careful, because look at all the fake news back there. They will correct me. They will say, he said he earned more. If I didn't earn, if I was 2 votes short, they would say, he's lying, he's lying. They are sick individuals. They're the fake news. But I have to be careful. No, we weren't. We had more votes than any candidate in the history of this great state, and I'm very proud. I love Georgia. I've always loved it. And every day since, I've been fighting for the people of Georgia like no president has ever fought before, and you're doing well, too. We're going to keep it that way. And 18 months ago, you were in trouble. Our country was in trouble, frankly. It was a catastrophe what was happening. Sleepy Joe Biden and the radical left Democrats, they're Democrats, D-U-M, Democrats, created the worst inflation in 48 years. Scott Bessent, was it the worst inflation in 48? Now, if Scott doesn't have credibility, nobody does, okay? He said it's the worst, and it was. It was actually, I think it was beyond 48 years, but 48 years is good enough. wide open borders with millions of people, even from the world's worst prisons from all over the world. They were pouring into our country. All over the globe they came, prisons and gang members, drug dealers, child predators, and 11,888 murderers, many of whom committed more than one murder. More than 50% committed more than one murder. We had transgender for everybody. Men and women's sports came ravaging through our cities. And the whole world was laughing at us. We were a joke all over the world, but not anymore. They're not laughing. They're not laughing. Right, Jackson? They're not laughing anymore, Jackson. Gonna be your next governor right here. 2 years ago, our country was dead, and now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world, respected by everybody all over the world, the hottest. And we're respected like, I say we respected maybe like never before. When I took office, we inherited the worst border in U.S. history. It was an open wound. It was an open sieve. We quickly turned it into the most secure border in the history of our country within 2 months. And numbers were just released by the Democrats that in the past 14 months, a historic record of 0 illegal aliens have been admitted into the United States. And now our crime numbers are among the lowest they've ever been. It's plummeting downward. And nobody's ever seen anything like it. Nationwide crime has been the lowest numbers that we've had in many, many decades. Last year, we achieved the largest drop in the murder rate ever recorded to the lowest level in 125 years. That's since 1900. That's before my father was born. Before my father was born, think of it, from the year 1900, lowest murder rate and that's despite the fact that we had millions of people poured into our country who were, in many cases, very, very dangerous people. We cut the flow of fentanyl across our border by 67%. And drugs coming in by ocean, sea, by water was cut 97%. We're trying to figure out who the 3% are because they are among the bravest people anywhere in the world. You've seen that. They are the bravest people in history, I believe. We're making the largest ever investment in the United States Armed Forces, and we've got the strongest and most powerful military anywhere in the world by far. There's nobody close. And I built it during my first term. I built our military. And as you know, they stupidly gave a lot of it away, but actually it was a lot, but it was small compared to what we built. But they gave a lot of it away to the Taliban, to Afghanistan. They gave it away. Just take it. We're leaving. Let's leave brand new machines behind. Let's leave airplanes behind. I said to them, well, what if you just fly it out and we'll take it back, or we can even fly it back to the United States if you'd like. Sir, I think it's cheaper to leave it. Brand new planes. It was so sad. I saw what was happening. What a disgusting thing took place. But we then, as you know, we won Venezuela, which is now working with us to produce millions and millions of barrels of oil. We're getting along great with them. One day. And we've already paid for that operation many, many times over. We're taking tremendous amounts of oil, and they're taking tremendous amounts of oil. It's a partnership, in a sense. They're doing a great job. We're working together. And millions of barrels of oil is going to Houston and Louisiana, coming to you indirectly after it's refined. They're refining it there. But millions and millions of barrels of oil, and also Venezuela is doing better than they've ever done before, too. The big oil companies are going in, and they're signing up. We have Chris Wright working on it, Doug Burgum working on it, Scott is working on them, and it's been incredible, actually. It's got serious oil. In fact, if you combine us and Venezuela, we have about 62% of the world's oil market. So we don't need straits. We don't need anything. We don't need the Hormuz Strait, but we do it because we have to do it, because we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. So we're likewise winning in the Islamic Republic of Iran, and we're ensuring that they will never, ever be able to do to us what they've done to so many. You know, they've killed 52,000 plus protesters. People that were protesting have been killed. 52,000 over the last 4 months. Nobody wants to talk about the fake news back then, never mentions that. And I just left Dover Air Force Base, which is an incredible place, but oftentimes very sad, because that's when they bring the bodies of our great heroes, our great patriots, warriors. They bring them back to Dover. And I've been there many times before. This was in particular something very sad. I attended the dignified transfer ceremony for 4 great U.S. service members killed in the conflict with Iran. As they returned to American soil at Dover. And one of the families happened to be traveling to Georgia. Beautiful family, beautiful wife and husband and brother-in-law. And I said, I'm going to Georgia too. Where are you going? She says, well, after this, sir, they lost their beautiful son. We're going to Georgia. I said, so if you want, I'll give you a ride on Air Force One. And they said, wow. Wow. So today, I then said they're on Air Force One, and it's quite nice, I must say. And they said, wow, this is something, thank you so much. But they're heartbroken, you know, they're heartbroken. But they couldn't believe it. And they live very close to here. They live minutes away. And we're here today, and I said to them, celebrating the memory of their beautiful, this was a beautiful son. You know, I read, when I go to Dover, I read charts on all of the young people, and some are unbelievable. Some are a little bit, you know, they got a little bit of a couple of little bad things put in. This is a son who was like a flawless, perfect person, beautiful, beautiful son, handsome in every way, brilliant, respected by everybody. His sheet read so beautifully, and I told them that their beloved son, and it's his name was Lieutenant Tyler Feehan, and he was a person that was going all the way. He was going to be a general. He would have been a general very quickly. He was heading in that path. But I just want to thank Tyler's mother, Sherry, his father, Stephen, and his uncle, David, great people. I got to know them a little bit on the plane, and standing there watching this sight, which is, it's very, very tough to watch, to be honest with you. Very tough. I think it's the toughest thing I do. Of anything I do all this stuff, but I think it's the toughest thing I do. But to Sherry and Stephen and David, we will carry Tyler's memory in our hearts forever, and I just want to thank you. It's an honor to have you here today. Please.
Hi, everybody. Ted Perry with you. 246, 71 degrees. We've been listening to the president down in Georgia at a campaign rally for the gubernatorial candidate down there. We're going to take you to, we were going to take you, how's this for timing? We were going to take you here to a House Judiciary Subcommittee meeting talking about a detention center in New Jersey, but that has just broken up. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to take a little break as we take a look outside. Look at how gorgeous it is, 71 degrees, 247. Not a hint, I don't think, of Canadian wildfire smoke left anywhere in our area, so we can check in with weather. We got some breaking news from the north side, and we're also going to talk about plants and trees. We have an arborist coming on from the city of Milwaukee. If your lawn is like my lawn, dry and brittle, even crunchy, and your trees are looking a little sickly, you're going to want to stick around for this. You are watching Wisconsin Live Desk on a beautiful Wednesday. Good afternoon to you, everybody. 252, 71 degrees. Ted Perry here. We want to take you right out to breaking news. Our Bria Jones is standing by live. She is at Appleton and Congress. You can see the police tape behind her. Bria, tell us what you know, please.
Ted, the Milwaukee Police Department has confirmed that we are on the scene of a fatal shooting. Take a look behind me. We have been out here since about 12 o'clock this afternoon, and within the last hour, the Milwaukee Police Department did confirm to us that we are on the scene of a fatal shooting. They say that a 44-year-old victim was shot and died from their injuries. The scene has calmed down quite a bit since we first arrived, but again, we're still starting to see officers going in and out of this. It's an exotic smoke shop. Again, this is at the intersection of Congress and Appleton. A lot has transpired this afternoon. We are constantly seeing officers again going in and out, both detectives and officers that are in their uniforms. So a variety of officers here in the scene. The forensics unit is here. The medical examiner's office, of course, has been called because this is the scene of a fatal shooting. We have personnel here from the victim witness unit that have been talking to people. We have seen officers talking to the victims. We've seen neighbors that have come out of their homes because they have concern for exactly what has happened here. Just within the last, 5 to 10 minutes, I actually had a chance to speak with a friend of the deceased victim here. And so much has transpired here. But again, we are on the scene of a shooting here. A 44-year-old has died. The Milwaukee Police Department still collecting their evidence. We've seen officers taking pictures near the door. They kind of been dusting for fingerprints, and that activity was still happening just within the last 20 minutes. So, Ted, this investigation is far from over. I expect officers to still be out here for quite some time. At one point, we saw people that were actually onlookers being handcuffed, and so much has changed. The scene has died down quite a bit over the last 2 hours, but at one point there was a person, and it's really unclear if they are even related to the investigation, but there was someone who was watching from the other side of the crime scene tape that was then handcuffed, placed in the back of a cruiser, and the bicycle that they were on was confiscated. And so that's where we were about an hour or so ago. I have reached out to the Milwaukee Police Department. We actually had that live on the Wisconsin Live Desk, the person being handcuffed and put in the back of the cruiser, but it's unclear. I just want to stress that because we did bring it to you live. It is unclear if that person has any relation at all to this investigation. But at this point, the handcuffed person is still in the back of a cruiser, still here on the scene. We've reached out to the Milwaukee Police Department for clarification. We're still just now kind of seeing officers. Now they're going business to business. I just saw someone going into the mini market that was here. And we know at this point in time, a part of the investigation is obviously officers working to get that surveillance video. And so there are a lot of different stories that are kind of circulating from people that I've kind of talked to that were here, including one of the witnesses who they say was actually inside of the business just moments before the shooting happened. And obviously that person was uncomfortable and, still frightened and not wanting to speak on camera. But just kind of hearing that story was it was very scary for a lot of people in the community, and I don't want to share it just yet, because again, I don't want to spread misinformation or speculate as to what has happened. But we know that a 44-year-old person is deceased here, and a lot of people have gathered. Some saying that they are family and friends of the victim. I had a chance to speak with the victim's best friend, who was in tears, really just kind of arriving to the scene and upset and frustrated as to what has happened, and saying that their friend, the person who was here at the smoke shop, was a good person and did not deserve this. And we're still seeing officers, Ted, as we're watching live, coming in and out of the business, but this is where the investigation stands right now. Milwaukee police saying they have no arrests have been made in this case. They are looking for unknown suspects. So that lets us know that police are saying that they do not know who the shooter is. They don't know who they're looking for, but That's why we're seeing them collecting the fingerprints, and they're just very meticulous in their investigation as they dust the door handles and take pictures of the inside of the smoke shop. And so we're still seeing a lot of the officers near the door of the smoke shop, which is really where they have now been focusing their investigation since we've been on the scene for about 3 hours. So we're still seeing the officers coming in and out. As I'm looking in, Jake, if you can zoom in now, there's another officer there.
Yep.
He's putting the tape on the
For
door,
fingerprints.
trying to pick up a fingerprint.
Yep. Okay.
And so, again, that's really just all a part of the investigation here, Ted.
Let me ask you, you said you talked to the friend of the person who was killed here. Did they work at the smoke shop? Were they visiting the smoke shop? What do we know about why, the circumstances of why they were at that location?
As far as the friend actually said that they own this barber shop that was right next to the smoke shop. And so they were saying that they were just happy that they had moved from this area recently because they would have been here when the shooting happened.
Right, but I guess my question is, the person who was killed, do we know if they worked in the smoke shop or did they work in the barber shop? I'm a little confused about that.
The people here are saying that the person that was killed is the owner of the smoke shop.
Is the owner? I got you. Okay, thank you for that clarification. I was unclear on that.
Yeah, so that's why a lot of people here have congregated, really just coming out to speak to the character of the person that was shot. They haven't given me a name, but which, again, I would need a close family member to identify. But
Sure.
People have been coming up here and just kind of reflecting and saying just really the good business practices. I think they said the smoke shop had only been here for less than a year. And so that's really what we've been hearing, that it was the people that know the victim that is deceased are saying it is the owner of the smoke shop here.
Okay. Bria Jones reporting live. Nobody is better at working that scene and getting information than you, so we're going to let you get back and do that. And we will see you on later newscast on Fox 6 News at 4, 5, and 6. Our Bria Jones reporting live for us from Congress and Appleton, where we know the medical examiner has been called for a 44-year-old victim. We don't know how that person died, but police are clearly there on the scene. Are we going to take? We're going to take a very quick break, and then we're going to really switch gears here and talk about the health of the trees, the ones in your backyard. They're thirstier than you realized. You're watching the Wisconsin Live Desk on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. 303, 72 degrees. I am showing you this shot of downtown Milwaukee. One, because it's postcard pretty with the different shades of blue from the sky to Lake Michigan to the Milwaukee River. And sure, there's a couple clouds up there, but there's not a single rain cloud in the sky. So why should today be any different than the last, 10 days or so? And if you're like me, your lawn is a shade of khaki that is usually only in style for a couple weeks a year. My lawn is crunchy and khaki, but you know what? Our trees might not be much better, which is why we have asked Aaron Stokel, the Forestry Services Manager for the City of Milwaukee, to join us, and we're very appreciative of your time, Aaron. Tell us how this lack of rain and this heat and this humidity and even the wildfires, how are they affecting our trees?
Thank you for the question. I mean, we obviously are thinking about this every day, day in and out, managing of the forestry department and all the trees that we plant along the street and in the boulevards. And what new trees need more than almost anything else is plenty of water. So whenever a new tree is planted, they go through a period of what we call transplant shock, meaning they have to overcome the fact that they were just, dug out of a hole and put into a new one. And in order to keep the roots alive and the tree to thrive and establish wherever we plant them, we rely on residents to help water these trees. So it's a great time to talk about it, because whether you have a new tree that you just planted on your property or it's a street tree planted between the sidewalk and the curb, they're really depending on us for water in periods like this.
Let's talk about the sidewalk and the curb area first, and then we'll get to people's personal plans. I think a lot of people assume, the city's got this. They're the ones who put it there. And they probably think they're doing you a favor by leaving it alone. But you're saying, no. It's okay. You go ahead and water it. If it's adjacent to your property, you're giving people carte blanche to water it. If so, how much?
So a good rule of thumb is about 5 to 10 gallons of water a week. But during periods of drought like this, that could even increase to twice a week. So think like a 5-gallon bucket. But the best way to really kind of measure even if you need water or not is if you're willing to get your hand a little dirty, stick it in the dirt. Is it moist or is it bone dry? If it's dry, we need a little more water. But as a general rule of thumb, like a 5-gallon bucket, at least once a week, 5 to 10 gallons will help get these trees through.
But not all at once, right? Sprinkle it out if you can?
Yeah, slowly as possible. So, if you're pouring water on dry soil, it's just going to run off. So if you can have like a slow trickle or slowly just kind of saturate the soil around the tree, that's best.
Talk about young trees. I'm trying to grow a small pine tree in my backyard, and I'm watering it, and it's a fledgling little thing. And
Sure.
I worry about overwatering. How do I know if I'm overwatering?
So again, I would say a good rule of thumb would be to be willing to get your hands a little dirty. If it's just like completely saturated, soaked soil, that's too much. You might be watering too frequently. It's just being engaged with the environment around the tree. Planting a tree is an investment that you have to protect with your own efforts. So just visiting it a couple times a week, checking the soil. Is it soaked? Is there like standing water? That's too much. But if the soil is moist and kind of evenly saturated, that's what we're looking for.
The popular phrase these days is "get outside and touch grass." It's sort of the metaphor for get away from the digital world. You're telling us to touch dirt, literally, and feel. I mean, look, I'm not an arborist, but I can tell dry dirt from wet dirt, and that's all you're asking us to do.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
What about mature trees? For example, I'm going to speak from experience here. I have a pear tree in my backyard, which I adore. And the fruit seems incredibly small this year at this stage where it's been bigger. Could that be the effect of lack of water?
I mean, that could certainly be an impact for it. So whenever a tree is stressed, and we've had irregular rainfall throughout the year, had a kind of a dry spring and then rain in June and then the drought now, that affects the tree's ability to allocate resources to its full capacity. So if it's dealing with the stress of having a drought, it won't necessarily be able to allocate as much resources to fruit production, maybe. So it definitely could be a factor.
Did the smog that we had, and I don't even want to call it smog, the smoke from Canadian wildfires, does that affect trees? I almost seems like that's a silly question, but does it?
I think that's probably a question we're going to have to explore more as it becomes, I don't want to call it a new normal, but air quality is going to affect every living thing. The full impact of how it affects trees I would say is a little uncertain at this point. But the good news is that the trees are there to help clean the air for us. So they take in the carbon dioxide, right, to give us clean oxygen. So we need them there more than ever.
What is the state of the trees in the city of Milwaukee right now? I know you've dealt with a lot of things, Dutch elm, Asian beetles, ash borers over the years. What's the current state of Milwaukee's tree civilization?
I like calling it a civilization. I would say we're in good shape right now. There's no there's always, I guess I should say, there's always like some concern. We are always monitoring for pests or diseases that might come and have such a big impact, like the couple that you mentioned with Dutch elm and then ash with emerald ash borer. But emerald ash borer, for instance, is something that we actively manage to protect our canopy and our ash population. We have arborists that are out there maintaining, pruning, removing dangerous trees and planting new ones so we can have a resilient forest for years to come. So I'd say good.
Yeah. I bet you're asked this a lot, and I'm putting you on the spot. Do you have any idea how many trees we have? Is there any way to quantify that? I know it's hard because we have county parks, but we have,
Right. As far as like the total number of trees, it's in the millions. The city of Milwaukee manages a little under 200,000 trees along the street and in the boulevard. Yeah.
Wow. I'm glad I asked that. 200K that you guys are directly responsible for, but it's in somebody's backyard. Okay. Another question. I'm embarrassed when I look at my backyard, and I'm blessed to have a number of different trees. I can't tell you what's an ash, which one's an oak, which one. I know which one is a aspen because I planted it.
Sure.
And the pear tree I've got down. Is there an app that you can recommend for people or is there some way to be able to tell without hiring an arborist to say that's an ash, that's an oak, that's a willow?
Well, I don't want to speak against my industry and discourage anyone from hiring an arborist because that's really like the professionals there, and any of the apps that you pick have their limitation. But I personally, I think iNaturalist is good, but I'm saying that as a personal comment, not as a representative of the city. It's a good app, but there's a number of them out there. And then most arborists too, they'll do consultations free of cost, or if you have questions, you can even submit a request to the city of Milwaukee. And we'll usually try to help figure it out with you.
And how important is it to trim our trees, to keep that canopy, I don't want to say clear, but neat?
Very important. So keeping it clear and neat, what I would call is like the aesthetic reasons why we prune trees is important to help beautify the streets of our city. But it also goes to like the longevity of the urban forest and of these trees. We're pruning trees to help prevent structural issues that cause trees to, completely break apart, or branches to have weak attachments to the trunk, to basically give them the best chance we can to survive in a really tough condition growing between that little narrow space and between the curb and the sidewalk.
Gotcha. I'm going to end this interview the way I end every interview, whether it's live or on tape. Is there anything I haven't asked you about tree health or what you need from us as citizens, whether you live in the city of Milwaukee or not? I happen to live in Whitefish Bay, but I'm sure the advice would be similar. Anything I haven't asked you that's important?
Sure. Well, just on the note of watering, one thing, a rule of thumb that I think would be helpful for everybody to know when you're talking about your watering commitment, the amount of time it takes for a tree to become established, generally speaking, is about 1 year for every inch in diameter that the trunk is. So if you plant a young tree and it's about 2 inches in diameter, then you could assume that it would take about 2 years for it to get established, and you would want to keep watering it during those full 2 years. Or if it's a smaller tree, maybe 1 year. But all trees can benefit from supplemental watering, but it's especially crucial for those younger ones.
Well, the first thing I do when I'm getting home, I'm taking you up on your advice, and I'm going to check, because I do have that fledgling pine that I really want to see grow, because it could be a beautiful tree. I'm going to make sure I'm not overwatering it, which is a danger that we can be doing too. Yeah. Erin Stokel, Forestry Services Manager, City of Milwaukee, and obviously a tree lover. Do you have a favorite tree? Is there one, or do you not want to play favorites?
Oh my gosh, they all serve their role, but I'm partial to a few native trees. I probably would say musclewood is my favorite.
Musclewood?
Musclewood. It's a native understory tree in Wisconsin. It has beautiful fall color, really neat bark in my opinion, and form. But they're all great.
At 3:30, I'm going to Google that when I'm off the air, because I've never heard of a musclewood tree. Fun talking to you. Thanks for your advice on trees, and We'll talk down the road again, I hope.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Great advice there. Great advice there from Forestry Services Manager Aaron Stokel with the City of Milwaukee. Learned a lot there. Again, go ahead and touch dirt. If it's dry, water it. If it's real moist, it's good. Let us bring in Stephanie Barrichello. I don't know about you. Wait. But don't forget that. Steph, there's a little voice in my ear that says, "Don't forget audio." How could we forget audio when it comes to Stephanie Barrichello? You're great. You'd be great without it because you could just point and we could understand. But you're so much better when we can hear you. I didn't mean to nerd out on that interview, but I really appreciated Aaron Stokel coming on with us because you're a homeowner. You got trees. I'm sure you learned a little something from that interview.
Actually, and you know what? I have fallen victim to a not properly transplanted or watered tree. This was 2 years ago when we moved into our new house, and we still need to take it out because it did not survive. So I do appreciate everything within that interview. Also want to look up musclewood too, Ted, because I have not heard of that. But I do like the idea of beautiful fall foliage because there are so many gorgeous trees that I pass by during the fall. And I always think, what is that? I want that in my yard. Yep. Normally they're too big, so I wouldn't want them in my yard, but anyways.
Okay, how dry are we? That's the question I think we should get to.
We're dry, Ted, unfortunately. Now, today is Wednesday. On Thursday, we get our new drought monitor. So tomorrow morning, I'm a little concerned with what the drought monitor is going to look like, especially here in southern Wisconsin. We do have areas in northern parts of the state and even the Milwaukee area now under moderate drought that's been starting to creep in the last couple of weeks. For a while there, we were doing so well because of all of the April rain, but then May was dry. Then we had rain in June, and now July is dry, specifically for the Milwaukee area. There have been a handful of other communities, Walworth, Racine, Kenosha counties that picked up a lot of rainfall, unfortunately, with severe weather. Same with the West Bend area. But Milwaukee, we have picked up under 0.2 of an inch of rain so far this entire month. So we are not doing well when it comes to rain, and we are pretty desperate for it. We're dry through Friday. Likely Saturday as well, but starting Saturday night, we have at least some slight thunderstorm chances that start to move back in. Maybe Sunday into Monday, a couple more chances for rain. It doesn't look to be a drought buster by any means. These will likely be spotty showers at best or a few thunderstorms here or there. But again, at this point, we'll take what we can get. Right now, though, it is gorgeous. I know we're desperate for the rain, but what a day it is right now. Look at these temperatures. We're in the low 70s in Milwaukee. This could actually be the coolest day of the month so far. Best part, though, dew points in the upper 40s. You can feel that huge change when it comes to dew points from over the last couple of days. It's been really interesting to look back at July so far, and I know we still have a handful more days still to go, and this calendar isn't fully updated. Today is Wednesday, but the coolest temperature we've had so far, 74 at the beginning of the month, only a couple of days in. So today will likely be the coolest day of the month, and we have really seen some heat because even the cooler than average days we've seen so far have still been well into the 70s and well into the 80s. Now, high pressure stays with us. We've got a few more clouds moving in. We're not as clear as we were earlier today. That's more so just thanks to the heat of the day, even though it's hard to call low 70s heat, but normal to see some of these really fair weather cumulus clouds moving in. There's rain west of us, but it's moving south, so we will not see any of that. And with that high pressure system in place through at least Friday, again, it may not be until Saturday night that we see some of those showers moving in. So now that we know that, we're going to stay dry, we're going to keep watering, time to focus on how nice these temperatures are. Still really great conditions to open the windows, to get outside. Temperatures right now a good 5 to 10 degrees cooler than yesterday. Even bigger difference when it comes to dew points. Remember, we were still well into the 60s yesterday, and it was still pretty humid. And right now, dew points are in the 40s, and we're still going to be pretty comfy even tomorrow and Friday. They climb a little bit into the 50s, but it's not until the weekend that we start to see that higher humidity back in the area. With that higher humidity also comes some hotter temperatures. We do have the chance to reach low 90s by Sunday as well as Monday. You can see that heat back in no time. But even tomorrow on into Friday, temperatures will be very normal, very pleasant for this time of year. So unfortunately, we're staying dry, but at least we have the beautiful conditions to get outside and at least enjoy it. Just don't put that sprinkler away just yet.
Are the numbers at the very bottom there? Okay,
Yeah.
-8 to +11?
Yep.
is that how much we're going to be above average and how much we're going to be below?
Yeah, below and above average.
That is quite a swing, isn't it? From Wednesday to Monday, we're going to go from an 8 below average to 11 above?
Because average right now is in the low 80s.
Okay.
So our 70s right now, quite a bit below that. And yeah, anytime we reach 90s, that's always quite a bit above average. We're getting to the point once we reach, I believe it's mid-August, our averages start to drop. But these are the hottest days of the summer typically, where our highest average temperature is in the low 80s, and then we'll begin to drop. But anytime we see 90s, that's always above average.
And have we done an air quality check today? Do we know? Are we all?
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. I took the graphics out of my show. I talked about them a little bit earlier, but that was again the bonus about today is that air quality is good for the entire state. All the wildfire smoke is way out west across southern Minnesota as well as Iowa. It does not look to creep back in, maybe at a very thin rate and not impactful to our air quality. But again, that's just adding to the benefits of how nice the weather is going to be the remainder of the week. So there are no air quality issues. Dew points are low. That's why I've been stressing all day. Open up those windows, air out the house, try to spend a longer period of time outside than what we've been able to do recently.
So my excuse for not exercising this week is blown.
It's blown.
I got to get off my keister and do it.
You got to do it.
You know what I did do today because it was so nice and I could let the air conditioning rest, and I have a floor unit, one that it can do the whole downstairs.
Yeah.
I took the screen out and cleaned it because it is doing that work, and so just a reminder to do that. And it was disgustingly filthy from the smoke that had been coming through it, right? So take advantage of today, do a little midsummer cleaning.
Yeah, I think that's smart because we're lucky right now with the limited wildfire smoke. It is still possible until those fires are completely under control that we still see it coming back. So you're right, that's a smart idea to give everything a fresh clean, and you can let it air dry outside.
Yes, I did. That's exactly what I did. It's a little scary that you knew that. I'm trying to stretch just a little bit because our producer Delaney is working on video of a musclewood tree for us.
No way.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're trying to see. We don't have a authorized picture. You can't just.
Sure.
We're responsible journalists here. We can't just go steal a picture from the internet.
Of course.
That's not how we roll.
So I had a Japanese maple tree in my yard.
Okay.
And it was in the backyard, and we wanted to move it to the front yard because, again, fall foliage on those Japanese maples are just gorgeous. It is dead, sadly.
From the transfer?
From the transfer. I don't think
How old was it when you tried to do this?
It was pretty young still.
Yeah. Do you wish you had just left well enough alone?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Big regrets there because they are beautiful.
Because what I'm trying to do is I've done it successfully. I have some property up north. I've taken little pine trees, and one is in its 3rd or 4th year, and it's strong. Okay. Yeah. And the other one, she's and it's just wilting. It's just that's why I was talking to Aaron Stokel. Like, am I out watering it too much? Am I not watering it enough? So I'm really rooting for the little guy, but he's
rooting.
Oh, I didn't even do that intentionally.
Where's Brett Lemoyne when you need him?
I know, right? Delaney, are we getting a musclewood tree or not?
We're still working on getting.
You got Haley and Maddie there. Can we get somebody back there to work, please? I mean, you guys are just. What are you doing back there?
We're still working to get an approved image.
An approved image of a maplewood tree. How about that, Steph? We're waiting on an approved. All right, producer box, go away. I don't need you anymore. I got to take Steph full. I got to do that. Okay, and then we can do that. Then I can break. No, what's going on? Okay.
Technology.
You know what?
It's overloaded because they're looking for the tree.
All of you stand down for a second. All of you stand down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a very short break, and this time I mean short break. You are watching the Wisconsin Live Desk on a beautiful Wednesday with no...
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
5 years ago today, July 22nd, 2021, it was a Thursday. Do you know where you were? Do you remember what you're doing? You're like, how can I remember 5 years ago, Ted? I can't remember yesterday. Does this help? Oh, yes. 5 years ago today, this from the Bucks, we celebrated with 500,000 of our closest friends. Bucks in 6. It wasn't just a saying, it was a destiny, and it happened in 6. After, may I remind you, dropping the first 2 to the Phoenix Suns, they came roaring back and won the next 4 to take the 2021 NBA championship, only the second championship in that franchise's history. The first, ironically, just 50 years before that, in 1971, when they had Lou Alcindor, who would go on to become Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and the Big O, Oscar Robertson, and Johnny Mack. That was a team. But this Bucks team, Giannis and Drew and Brooke and Chris Middleton and Pat Connaughton, none of whom are with the organization. I'm not saying there aren't people with the organization still with the team. Of course there are. But there are no players. And the coach, Mike Budenholzer, fired a couple years after that. And the Bucks just have not been the same since, and they are starting from scratch. But that was, I want to bring in our producers here because I don't know. I got to take this. I got to take tagboard out. Okay, Haley, are we boring you back there? Are we boring Haley? She's yawning back there.
We must be.
What do you guys remember about that day? Where were you?
I was in Eau Claire watching it. I think I was at Milwaukee Burger Company watching the game.
I'll tell you, I was there. Mary and I headlined our coverage downtown in the Deer District, and it was just one of the best days ever in this city. People were walking around. They were talking to each other. They didn't say hello. They said Bucks and 6, Bucks and 6. And it was such a unifying thing. Remember, we were still in the COVID era. People didn't seem to mind because they rammed into the Deer District, and it was a great, great ceremony. And I've never seen Milwaukee happier. I've never seen Milwaukee happier than that. Do you have any memories? I know you were in Eau Claire, but this thing really went across the whole state.
I know. It was exciting to see everyone. I feel like everyone was very happy, but it was fun to see everyone come together.
It really was. It was such a unifying thing in a city that is sometimes divided, in a country that is sometimes, what's that? We have the tree pictures. Okay, I hope Stephanie Baracolo is watching. How do I get the tree pictures? Okay, tagboard out. Ladies and gentlemen, we give you the Musselwood tree. There it is. Well,
and these are from Johnson Nursery in Menominee Falls.
Johnson Nursery, Menominee Falls, kind enough to let us use these images. If you're saying, what are you doing? Why are you showing us this? We had Aaron Stokel on, the Forestry Service Manager from the city of Milwaukee. And of course, I'm going to ask a tree person their favorite tree. And she told us the Musselwood. Obviously, this one has been trimmed back a little bit. This is not showing its flowers, but we get a pretty good sense of it. Okay. Oh, there it is. There it is in its glory. I can picture this tree. I never knew it was a Musselwood. I hope you're watching. Hey, Stephanie Baracolo in the weather office, I hope you're watching this. Good job. Who dug these up? Carrie Doctor?
Carrie was able to get these from Vanessa at Johnson Nursery.
Vanessa at Johnson Nursery, shout out to you. Look at that beautiful tree. Fall foliage there. We're not quite there. But yeah, good stuff there. All right, thank you. The beautiful Musselwood tree. I'm a birch guy myself. I don't have a picture of my birch tree, but I also have a pear tree. You know why I have a pear tree in my backyard? Yeah, any guess? Think of my name.
Perry.
Perry means dweller of the pear tree.
Does it really?
So when I bought my home a few years back, I said, well, I've got to do this. I've got to put this up. So is Maddie coming back here? Is she coming back on?
Yep, Maddie's getting ready to come back on.
She's sitting there like on the bench, say, Maddie, get warmed up. We need you. So in about a minute, you're going to see Maddie go from sitting on the bench there. And what's Haley doing there? Is she just hanging out?
Yeah.
Okay, just pretty much hanging out. Does she have a favorite tree that she wants to talk about?
She says a Christmas tree.
Oh, good answer. That's a good answer. All right, you're going to see Maddie Stoke coming in here in a minute. I'm going to send it to break. Thanks for being with us on this beautiful afternoon. You'll see me again at 4 o'clock and then at 5 o'clock and then also at 9 and 10. I'm in for Ben today, so you're going to see a whole lot of Ted Perry. You've been warned. Thanks for being with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. I'm your host, Maddie Stoke, taking you until 4 o'clock here. I'm looking, and I'm getting an error on my screen. I'm communicating this for my producer, Delaney, that I am unable, it seems like, to control audio right now. It looks like I'm getting an error when I try to log in. So she is going to be the ears behind this operation, as I am the eyes, as we go out to some of the things that we're following right now. Number one is this breaking news scene right here. We do know that a 44-year-old was shot on Milwaukee's north side just before noon today. This is near Appleton in Congress right now. We just got that update from Milwaukee Police. Arbria Jones, she's at the scene right now trying to give us updates, gather more information. We did get it confirmed first as the medical examiner was called, and then did get that information from Milwaukee Police that a man was shot and killed. As Bria has said in her various shots as we've taken her throughout the last few hours, that she did not see much of a crime scene outside of the shopping center where this was taking place, but more in that vape shop that we had shown you earlier, which is where the investigations seemed to be taking place. We saw detectives, police going in and out of that area, kind of gathering evidence and then bringing it back out. We did see one person live on air getting put in handcuffs. We do know from Arbria Jones that was put into a police cruiser, and it was actually somebody who was one of the onlookers in the crowd who was trying to figure out what was going on. The scene has garnered quite the crowd around this shopping center right now. Some people trying to figure out what's going on, some people who knew the victim, and also some witnesses who might have seen exactly what happened here. Again, a lot of questions still remain at this scene, still a very active area, and even closing off some roads there, as you can see. So if you are in this area, just be conscious of you might have to make a detour, and also to avoid it as the investigation continues. I want to take you back out now to Georgia. That's where President Trump is speaking right now. I'm going to leave the shot up of our of a breaking news right here. Hopefully can check in with our reporter Bria Jones in just a moment here. But right now, let's take you back out to Georgia, where the president is speaking about Trump accounts.
He does two things. He eats and he makes deals. And the eating he's not good at, other than quantity. But the making deals, he's very good. But he called me up because, I buy this fat drug. And now he calls me Mr. President. He used to call me Donnie. In London, I just paid $87. I said, "You're so rich, how do you even know?" He said, "I don't know. My people told me that." And so he said, I went out and I had it checked. And it was from the same exact company, the same plant. It was actually made in the United States, the same everything. He said, "What the hell kind of a deal? I'm paying like almost 10 times as much." I said, "That's the system." But it really awoke in me, and I said, I got to do something about it because he's right. A pill that will sell for $10 in London or in Munich, $10, is selling for $100 or $120 for a pill in New York City or in Chicago, Los Angeles, or any other place. And I said, we got to do it. It's unfair. And I called up the drug companies, and they fought me, and then they said, "You're right." They had all sorts of excuses. "Well, we have to do research." I said, "Well, you're doing research for other countries too, right?" So they finally gave in under very, very tough time for them. And then they said, and they gave in because they never thought I'd get the countries to do it. And I called up France. I started with Emmanuel Macron. I said, "Emmanuel, you must raise your drug price." "Oh, Donald, why would I do that?" "Because we're paying too high. And you're paying too low, and we're going to meet somewhere in the middle." No, Donald, I will not do that." "Yes, you will." "No, I won't, Donald. I will not do that, Donald." I said, "Yes, you will." And then finally he said, "No." I said, "Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a 200% tariff on every bottle of wine and champagne coming out of France." And he said, Scott was there, and he said, Donald, it would be my honor to do that." And we got France, so we got all of them the same way. That's too complicated. But we got it, and now we have favored nations, and we pay the lowest prices anywhere in the world from the highest prices. And that alone should win us the midterms, but it's not going to be that easy with the cheating and everything else that goes on. So make it too big to rig. Remember my statement, too big to rig, make it too big to rig, and watch those machines. Every day we're liberating our communities from the scourge of migrant crime. In nearby Clayton County, Georgia, federal law enforcement recently charged an illegal alien murderer from Mexico who shot a man in the torso and then shot another twice in the heart and the head. In Bullock County, ICE arrested an illegal alien who sexually assaulted an 11-year-old girl and held her 10-year-old sister at knife point for 1 week. John Ossoff and the Democrat communities, they voted to defund ICE and leave Georgia families at the mercy of the monstrous criminals that we're getting out of here. We're getting them out at record speed. And by the way, we always stand with the heroes, the patriots of ICE and Border Patrol. Always. They take such abuse, and they do their job.
All right, live in Georgia right now, listening to President Trump talk about Trump accounts, which are those accounts that are given that you can open actually if you do have a kid who was born during this time. You can find more information. We have a whole article on our website, fox6now.com, if you want to learn more. I want to take you back out now to this breaking news that we are following right now. We know a 44-year-old was shot and killed on Milwaukee's north side just before noon. This is at Appleton and Congress right now, still a very active scene. And guys, I have audio again, which is great news, so I can control that now. But yeah, so we're following this at Appleton and Congress right now. All we know so far is that there was a fatal shooting and this investigation is underway. The victim not yet been identified, but we do know that it was a 44-year-old. Once we get more information, we will bring it to you right here on Fox Local. I want to give you some updates that we actually got about an investigation that we brought you yesterday in Campbellsport. It was about this boy right here. This is Bobby Joe Fritz. He disappeared back in 1983 when he was 5 years old. And the reason why we're talking about this is because decades later now, the case has been reopened. And the reason why is because we got a release from the Fond du Lac County Sheriff's Office yesterday saying that new information has prompted an excavation, which is what you can see on your right. So that's a screen grab of what we were seeing yesterday here on the live desk, was a live look at detectives, as you can see, dressed in the white suits. They were excavating different parts of evidence or possible pieces of evidence from the boy's childhood home. So this is nearly decades later now, and we actually just got a new release from the Fond du Lac County Sheriff's Office. I'm going to see if I can bring you that in full here and just kind of read it out loud for you. So we learned that the execution of the search warrant, that was yesterday, and the scene has been released back to the property owner, who, again, doesn't have any connection to the Fritz family or his case. Again, because remember, this is decades later now. So what was once Bobby Joe Fritz's childhood home is no longer, and now is a different owner. And it says, while the remains of Bobby Joe Fritz were not located, investigators did recover new potential evidence that will undergo further analysis. Detectives remain hopeful that this evidence will provide further insight into what happened to Bobby Joe. And then also going on to say that cold cases like this one that you're seeing here remain open and active. So this is something that they're still going to continue investigating, and hopefully something with a fresh lead that can kind of reopen this case and possibly an investigation to give some of his family members closure. Again, he was 5 years old back in 1983, meaning that he would be in his 40s now. So there are still people, loved ones that are connected to him, who are still searching for that closure and hopefully that new information that we do not know exactly what it is, but we do know that there is something that is prompting the Sheriff's Office to continue that investigation. Once we get any more updates here, any new releases, we'll bring it to you live on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We're going to take a quick break here, 3:43 on your Wednesday afternoon. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
Desk.
Thanks for being with us here on your Wednesday afternoon. I'm Maddie Stelg, taking you to 4 o'clock, and then Fox 6 News at 4 will take you through from there. I want to give you a live look at downtown Milwaukee right now. Pretty quiet out there, 72 degrees. We're a bit chillier today, and I don't know if you guys remember what this exact date means to the city of Milwaukee, but July 22nd, I want to take you back 5 years ago to what was going on. This might jog your memory here. I'm going to be totally transparent. You guys, I edited this TikTok, and I hope that the music had the dramatic effect that I was going for, because I feel like a lot of people really reminiscing on this day. I want to bring in sports director Tim Van Voren now to talk about this, because Tim, I can't believe it's been 5 years. I mean, since the 2021 parade when the Bucks won the finals, the first title that they got in half a century.
By the way, you are an expert content creator.
Thank you, Tim. You know what's
Yes.
after our meetings about content creation, I was like, I got to add that effect to it, you know?
You pulled it off for sure, and I agree with you. 5 years, it's like, that's incredible. I was listening to the radio the other day, and they were talking about 5 years from the night they won the championship, and I called a couple of people like, do you remember that was 5 years? And everybody had the same reaction. And so the same deal on the parade, I think. It was just such an impressive thing at the time, and the city came together, and the galvanizing effect of the NBA championship for the Bucks. And then here we are. You turn the page, you turn the page, you turn the page. There's nobody left on the roster page from that team, Maddie.
That is crazy. And I was just reading an article going like, where is every Bucks starter now? And of course, with like Giannis leaving as well, and it's crazy that everybody's, gone on their own paths now in 5 years. I have to ask Tim, I know you were probably covering this, but where exactly were you at this time 5 years ago?
Yeah, we had a nice spot downtown. I could see the stage off in the distance, and it was kind of narrating the people coming by on the road, and there were various media stations up there. It was pretty cool. It was a great assignment just to be down there all day and with the people, and saw so many people from Milwaukee who just kind of come up and say hello while we were waiting for something to take place. I hadn't seen in years or whatever. Everyone was just like the people you wouldn't necessarily have expected to want to be there in person, just to be a part of that experience. It was awesome to see so many of them, and just to experience it with other people, with the community. It was incredible. And those players were so happy. And again, they came through on the buses, and they went up to the big stage. And, Thanasis Antetokounmpo was in his own little SUV off to the side because he had tested positive for COVID, Maddie. So, he couldn't mingle with the other guys. Earlier this year, I was talking with Sam Merrill, who's a guard for the Cleveland Cavaliers. He was a rookie that year for the Bucks. He played one game in the NBA Finals, 1 minute. And he said it was one of the best basketball experiences he ever had. That whole deal, he's gone on to make a lot of money. He's main player for the Cavaliers now, but that 1 minute in the NBA Finals his rookie year still stands out. The parade was part of it too.
No, I can imagine. I mean, what a historic day for everybody in the city of Milwaukee, and you really saw everyone kind of rally around. For you, as a legacy sports anchor reporter here in Milwaukee, at the beginning of the season, were you expecting them to make it all the way to the finals and then win?
At that time, Maddie, they were definitely the best, or one of the top 2 or 3 best teams in the NBA. You couldn't expect that they'd get all the way there. We saw that they were the best team for a few years after that and couldn't get back to that finals level because of a variety of issues, including health. So yes, they had been on the ascent up to the year they won the championship, and of course coming off the bubble campaign. It was just a strange time in our society, of course, and certainly in the NBA. You knew the Bucks would be good. You knew they had all these special players. They had made some deals to really make a run for it. But to see it come to fruition after such a long drought here in Milwaukee, it was so special to see it on the court. And then thankfully, you get a nice day weather-wise. Who knows what workplace productivity was that day, Maddie? Way down on the list because everybody was hanging out in downtown Milwaukee.
Yeah, I wish I could get a stats of the amount of people who called in sick that day, probably, to be down there, because you're right. I mean, the energy looked just absolutely electric.
It really was. And people, the Deer District was more open back then than it is now. So, that had just been the gathering place for people of all ages, people who couldn't afford to go to the games or even didn't want to go into the games, just wanted to be a part of things. And that carried over through the parade. It was such a communal experience here in Milwaukee.
How would you say things have changed since 2021? I mean, besides the obvious, I even forgot about that was like pandemic era kind of. I was making that video and then you see the masks and you're reminded of just how long ago that was. But how have things changed, on and off the court in your eyes since they won that day?
Certainly.
Bucks and six.
Bucks and six, says Ted Perry, who was down there as well. A clear part of the situation for everybody. On the roster, obviously, the coaching changes that have taken place since then, the kind of the landscape of the NBA. The Bucks are no longer a power team. They're at the other end of the spectrum right now, Maddie. That's how quickly things can change. We talk about, it's 5 years. You can look at that two ways. 5 years was a long time ago, or 5 years was just that, blink ago. So I think a lot has changed in the NBA. Obviously, the Bucks being a part of that. Giannis was front and center for everything, right? At that time, Giannis Antetokounmpo was front and center for everything in the NBA, certainly for the Milwaukee Bucks and the city of Milwaukee. And now he plays for the Miami Heat. That's the biggest change. That'll be the biggest change I think we'll ever see off that team.
Yeah, absolutely. And then kind of talking off the court with fans, do you think that the way Milwaukee rallied around the Bucks in 2021 and the way that their just unwavering support, something kind of shifted culturally here, do you think that's been lost since then, or something that needs to be brought back for them to do well again?
Maybe a little fade, Maddie, but I wouldn't say loss. You see a lot of Bucks license plates around town. You see a lot of Bucks, people wearing Bucks clothes. You didn't see that nearly to that degree before this team started that ascent that I referenced earlier. It was Packers, and then Brewers were second on that list, and Bucks were down a little bit. Now, again, you go to certain parts of town, you're going to see a lot of Bucks stuff. You see, Bucks stores, Bucks merchandising available. So I don't think it is gone at all. It's faded a little bit with the changes in success for the team as much as anything else. But I do definitely think there's an appetite for Bucks success, and there is much more appreciation for what the Bucks mean to this community than there had been maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah, and I think people still maybe mourning a little bit the loss of Giannis, but of course, as we've been saying, we need to move on. For you, you have a very decorated career at covering sports here in Wisconsin. Is there anything, now that you covered an NBA championship, with the team winning, is there anything else on your bucket list besides a second NBA championship, of course?
Yeah, certainly. That would be there for the Bucks. You win an NBA championship, you're at the mountaintop, and you want to get back up there. Teams want to do it. People covering those teams, fans, they want to see it again. Of course, had the chance to cover multiple Packers Super Bowl championships. Can they do it again? The Brewers, they have been to the World Series, 1982, Maddie. That was way before the Matty Stelk era around here. And they have not won a World Series in their history. So they're a very good team. They're a World Series competitor and a contender. So that would be something that I think so many Brewer fans would just say. It would be like the Bucks. This drought, oh my goodness, I never really thought it would happen. And then, could it happen? So we'll see if this is the year sometime for the Brewers. That would certainly be on the list.
Yeah, hopefully that does. Or maybe we can get both. Or all of them, honestly.
Right.
Could be done. We never know. Of course, we'll look out for that, and I'm sure a lot of Milwaukee sports fans are holding out and hoping for the best for the Bucks as well. Tim,
that's not too greedy. Right?
Yeah.
That's not too greedy.
Right.
You get both. You get another championship. Throw the college teams in.
Just a few.
Sure.
Not asking for much.
Right.
So hopefully.
We didn't have the Wild Desk back then. We didn't have FOX6 Now back then. Now we have the opportunity to share all these moments, so we need more moments to talk about.
Absolutely. I think that's a good point. It's kind of like, do these franchises know about Fox Local? That's the big question. So hopefully they will after this.
Once they've seen some of your content, they're going to
please go on. Tim, thanks so much for joining us here on the Live Desk. So great whenever there's an anniversary or something happening to have an excuse to bring Tim Van Voren on the desk. Truly the best there is in the game there. So hopefully maybe another championship, maybe a World Series, a Super Bowl in the near future for Wisconsin sports. And of course, we'll cover it all right here on the live desk, so you're not going to want to miss it. I want to take you back out one more time to that breaking news that we're following right now. So we do know for sure that a 44-year-old here was shot on Milwaukee's north side just before noon today. This is near Appleton and Congress right now. Still a very active scene. Arbria Jones given several reports throughout the last few hours talking about this a little bit. So she's going to have a report coming up on Fox 6 News at 4. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. And for your updates, you can download the Fox Local mobile app, and also just